Little birdies. Birdies and stuff. It's a nice calm introduction. All right, let's go. What is up, my folks? We got birds. Birds are reading us in today. It's good times. You know things are good when the birds are happy. Welcome everybody. How you doing? Good to see you all. Oh, it's hot in here. How you doing? Shifty. 07's buddy Reese. I see you. Toes gang. Have you taken the Toes ambassadorship from Punji? We're missing half of Toes gang today. But I'm glad that you are here, Reese, to keep us up to date on the Toes goings. Cantor 07's buddy, dude, how you doing? Frenchie, Francesco, I like it, Frenchie and Francesco. Stanco, DJ, welcome everybody. Memory, Sphinx, good to see you. Victora, Red Barchetta, where everything else is waiting in SC, soon TM. Everything except for the good old events that never fail. Knights of the Dice Table, what's up? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. Killing me, please. It's a intense name. Knights of the Dice Table. The tweets are coming in. The tweets? Oh, the birds. There are no birds. Those are government drones. I hear they are. They control the rain. The birds. They do. If you watch them, they don't fly when it's raining because they made the rain happen. That's why. I've heard some weird conspiracy theories. I'm sorry. Marco Holio? How you doing? Good morning. Welcome. Division Error. Oh, sevens with the honeybee. I like that one. I like that. Stop signs aren't real. Stop signs aren't real. Gravy is made of human. Water is wet. The world isn't what it seems. We all know. We're used to it. Good day, Pardola. PTSD Awareness Day. Oh, is that today? My friends, if you have PTSD, I really do hope that you can get the help that you need for that. It can be debilitating. It can be really difficult. Seen it firsthand. It's not fun. So I hope everybody who might be having a difficult time with something can talk to somebody about it. Find somebody who can help them with that. Also, though, happy Monday, right? Anything good happening this week, guys? Anybody doing anything especially special this week? We're going to be starting Lost again. So we finished From. Somebody suggested that to us. We caught all the way up and caught the season 2 finale yesterday when it came out. So now we are really on a hype to get back to Lost. So we're probably going to watch that. But we're also heading out of town this week because it is the holiday of Eid here in Turkey. And we like to get ourselves a little bit of space for this holiday. So I won't actually be having any streams on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday this week. So today's got to be extra special, right? Lamps in video games use real electricity. They do. You can literally see that usage on your electrical bill. It's pretty crazy. Stanko knows. Stanko's been around. He's traveled. You can tell. Alex, hello. How you doing? Oh, okay. Our bitrate is dropping down. Why would our bitrate be dropping? Might be having some internet issues here. Not sure why that would be. Sorry about the lag, guys. Let's make sure that is not continuing. Why in the world are we dropping so much? It's always something. Give me a second. We got to do a little IT here. As you know, it's a Space Tomato stream. Which honestly, maybe this is the reason people are coming less. Because this stuff will not stop. It won't quit. It won't leave us alone. It looks like we're smooth now, but I don't have any way of knowing whether or not this is going to continue. As it always goes. There's nothing I can do. So I hope it stays stable. We got big plans today, folks. Everybody knows about Colonialism Outposts. If you don't, this is kind of it here on the screen. Colonialism Outposts were introduced to us 3 years ago now. And there are quite a few different features in Star Citizen that take a long time. We get updates on updates on updates, generally over the course of months, maybe over the course of a year or two. But with this one, with Colonialism Outpost, it's been 3 years now, and we still don't see them. Now, they were originally planned for Pyro, but they've been talked about so much. I figured we have a little bit of a sit down here and go through every single update we've ever gotten on these outposts to see what the plan and ideas were behind them and where they are now. So we got a lot to get through. I will dive right into it. Thank you for joining me today. We'll be trying to do more and more of these sort of development highlight streams as opposed to gameplay. I have come to the conclusion that people do not like me playing Star Citizen, therefore I will stop. And we're going to start doing more of these kind of feature deep dives, looking at ships, all that kind of stuff, the stuff you like. So I implore you to join me, sit back, enjoy the show, and let's see where the actual are the outposts. Thanks for coming, folks. Oh yeah, and 2 days left on the 400i giveaway. We are giving away a 400i with lifetime insurance and a special little green skin. If you like green, that works out. If you don't, just like, don't use that skin. Choices and stuff. You can join that though by typing in !! giveaway on YouTube or ! 400i on Twitch. Our thanks to you for being part of this. So let's jump in here right off the bat. We're going to go and look at the initial the initial introduction of this feature of the outposts. This is the very first time we ever heard or saw about them. And we're going to go all the way from this, which is summer of 2020, up until a couple of months ago when we got our last update on this. Giving it away while you're gone? Yeah, it just works out like that, unfortunately. That it be like that. I don't know, we'll figure something out. We'll announce the giveaway winner when we get back. All right. Let's see what they had planned.
Returning down planetside, early concept explorations are underway on the creation of homesteads, habitats, and homes for NPCs that may one day dot across the surface of planets and moons throughout the Stanton system and beyond. Now, these thumbnail sketches are an invaluable first step in any concept process. And as usual, they're explorations only. That means that while several of them may be chosen to make the next step into full-on development, the reality is that many of these may die here as solid examples of simply what we don't want to do. Such is the way for thumbnail sketches.
So they actually used to call them colonialism, or sorry, not homesteads. And they kind of like had the colonialism what's it called? Little subcategory there. An important picture that's going to help with this. First thing to understand about Star Citizen is that there's a lot of detail. And one of the things that they added a lot of detail to was the art style, the architectural style of the game. So we already know utilitarian style in this game. R-Corp, Hurston, they're both very utilitarian in style. Even a lot of the space stations that we use are utilitarian. Doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense since the utilitarian era, as you can see here, was 800 years ago, as per the lore. But obviously, you can make something in classical style right now. It's not like that just... There's rules that say you can't. So we've seen utilitarian style. We've also seen some high-tech style with microtech. So microtech sits in the high-tech architectural style. But besides that, we haven't seen anything else. We haven't seen streamline, we haven't seen metaclassicism, we haven't seen Henoism, and we haven't seen super modernism. The next thing we're supposed to be seeing is colonialism. This was during an era that humanity was spreading out. We were finding a bunch of planets, new systems, and we were building things with the frontier vibe. Using natural resources, using whatever was on hand on the planet, the stones and the minerals and that kind of stuff. And a lot of derelict stuff is also in the colonialism style, which we've seen popping up in Stanton a little bit. So this is meant to explain the architectural style of Star Citizen. I don't know how closely they're going to try and stick to this because things are always changing in the game, but this is something they presented to us back in 2019. And for the most part, they seem to be wanting... I mean, really, we don't have much of an example, but the colonialism style is starting with these outposts. I don't think it's ending with those outposts. I think it's going to be, I think we'll see all of these different archetypes of locations that we have, from outpost to city to space station, in all of these formats. In fact, you can see, let's see, what is it? I think it's Henoism. You can see the different art styles and some of the concept art for these planets. So if you go to Cascom in the Castra system, you can tell that it's very Henoistic. It was a former military base. It is not necessarily meant to be pretty. It's got kind of that bunker style. It's very heavily protected. So they have the plans for this kind of stuff. In fact, you can go to Castle in the Goss system and see that sort of super modern take on the designs as well. Very curved, very futuristic. So these are just kind of the different vibes and archetypes that they have in Star Citizen they want to do. And what we're going to go over today is their first explorations of the colonialism style. So I just showed you their introduction, summer 2020, very short. They just showed us a couple of these sketches.
Of simply what we don't want to do. Such is the way for thumbnail sketches.
And they are very Tatooine in style, I think people like to say. But that was our first update. Remember, 3 years ago, August of 2020. So now we're going to march our way through every other update and see what they've been saying about them. Were there any price changes to Star Citizen? To the game? What exactly? Price changes on what? No mix of alien and human architecture? I don't think they recognize that by a time frame. There will probably be some kind of mixes, but I don't think I think what they were trying to show us were the major splits. What will come first, our own permanent outpost or permanent apartments in current cities? Probably our own apartments. I think base building is a ways off. Cuddy Black went up. Oh, is that what they're talking about? Ship price changes? I do not know. I heard that there are some ships going up in price, the Cuddy Black, the Avenger Titan, and something else, but I don't think any of that's taken effect yet. Tomorrow? Okay, gotcha. And the hoplite. The hoplite. Is it not every Vanguard? It's just the Vanguard hoplite? That's interesting. The outpost from the Citizen Con demo on the mossy planet Pyro 3 planet was dubbed Mos Eisley. 3 years ago, but let's not forget there was a global something that put a major slowdown in everything. Yeah. But as you'll see, we're going to go through these updates and you will see how much they talk about Pyro, these being planned for Pyro, these are coming with Pyro, and generally that's the main answer as to why we don't have them yet. Pyro's not in the game. But clearly they had a bit of a slowdown on getting Pyro into the game, which in turn slowed down these outposts. But let's see what else they were saying about these. So now we're jumping ahead just a month. We're going from August 20th to April 18th. Or sorry, September 18th. Let's see what they were saying about them then.
And persistent universe. Finally, several weeks ago, we showcased some initial concept explorations for homesteads, frontier housing to be found out in the wilderness.
Honestly, I really like
for homesteads.
Really like this one. I hope we could see something like this in the game. This looks cool. This kind of reminds me of the Mass Effect 1 outposts you'd get when you go down to a planet and explore a little bit.
Frontier housing to be found out in the wilderness areas of undeveloped planets and moons. And there were a lot to choose from. So the next step has been to turn...
Any favorites from you guys on here? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just across the top, left to right. And then it restarts down here in midway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I really do like these bigger ones. But what concept does it look like they went forward with? What did they focus on actually doing? I guess we'll see that as we go forward with these updates. I feel like this might be one of the options. But I can't remember now. We'll have to see. You're going to build a big outpost with a garage for your Titan suits. Let me know about those Titan suits. I would love to hear more about that. Number 10. Number 10 right here. Yeah, actually, I could see some of that. I could see some of that in the buildings that they've shown us. Good call. What's up, Adam? How you doing? Third and first from the bottom. Third and... third... Which way? Pointed right at your favorite one. This one? I do really like that. Yeah, some of these have some very, very nice details to them. One of those with the underground hangar that you can spawn a ship and land vehicle in would be dope. Yeah. Connecting these to underground facilities would be really cool. All right, what else did they come up with here? I think he was talking about turning these sketches into 3D sketches. Let's see.
Planets and moons, and there were a lot to choose from. So the next step has been to turn some of those 2D sketches that we really liked into 3D sketches in Blender to further explore the shape language, to see these things from as many different angles as possible.
Looks like a stovetop little cooker here.
And to begin to build out a library of kit bash options for us to play with. At this stage, one of the main things we're looking for in fleshing out this colonial architectural vibe visually is that it looks like it can survive in many different climates, perhaps with a patching motif that indicates generations of use instead of the outright replacement of components that could keep them looking newer. As far as shape language, these efforts will also be used to help us land on a specific direction of cubical, conical, spherical, or some mix therein. Like most concepts, these visual explorations are just as important in figuring out what we do want as determining what we do not. Also under consideration are the materials that would be used to make these structures, as there's a desire within the team here to make the materials found in the walls or rooftops appear as if they were sourced from the planet where any homestead is found whenever possible. Overall, this is one of the most enjoyable periods for any concept artist, a time where it's more about exploring primitive forms and building shape relationships between core elements, researching traversal options and how they'll settle within the environment around them, and perhaps most importantly, working hand in hand with system designers to identify all the necessary gameplay components and the relational hierarchy necessary between them, so that when development of this feature really kicks into high gear, we'll all be creating something from the ground up that can build upon and utilize the full complexity of the resource generation and item control system we discussed last quarter on Calling All Devs that is currently in development for ships, vehicles, and space stations alike.
So there were a couple things that showed up while he was talking, and he mentioned the resource generation. So you see like power cells down here, you see solar panels, gas and liquid storage, you see cooling units. All of these things are it's the kind of stuff they built into the concept because at some point this stuff is going to act with engineering gameplay, with powering locations and figuring out the resource management of each of these outposts. That's going to allow us to do maybe some small missions on these locations, kind of like we're already doing. I guess that was the Squadron 42 vertical slice, but you get the sense that like we're gonna getting that saxophone playing, dude. Tiny STL. Tiny STL comes out of nowhere with 5 subs. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for getting people in the sub club. Cotton, no problem. Thanks for being here. Mods can be late. Mods can be late. Frenchie was here holding it down. You guys are you're killing it as a team, by the way. Thank you so much. So you can become Jabba the Hutt with these buildings. You might need a little floating car thingy and what are they called? Sarlacc pit. But yeah, you could probably be Jabba. Old Jabba. I wonder what there's no way they're not going to do a Jabba the Hutt kind of figure in this game. I wonder what race they would be. I'm thinking Banu. Feels just the most likely that it would be a Banu that would take that kind of a role. Outpost will be really neat. Want to make your own mining outpost or salvage yard? Yeah. I mean, imagine being able to have these as locations for your org to have on different planets where you're farming resources and then sending them on cargo trips back to your main location. So much logistics opportunity with this kind of stuff. But right now what we're looking at is strictly for NPCs. Base building for us is going to be a far ways away. But as we continue through these updates, you will notice some of the tools that they use to build this stuff are derivatives of the tools that we'll be using when the game gets to that point. You like the sax playing? Dude, it's beautiful. It's such a good sound. It's so funny. It gives us a copyright warning every single time on YouTube. With these bases have beacons to quantum to, I would assume at the point that we're getting these, you can place your own beacon to quantum. Because Outposts right now already have beacons, right? And these are going to be the same as Outposts we have right now. But when you start building your own stuff, that'll be unmarked, I imagine. And whoever is allowed to have that location will have it. And that can end up playing more into the data running and data management kind of gameplay. So there are a lot of opportunities for them to make the actual function of this game depend on gameplay systems. But we don't know how deep that's going to go yet. Gunfighter, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good. Hope you're having a good Monday, friend. All right, so continuing on from here.
Upon and utilize last quarter on calling all devs.
Strong Tatooine vibes. I think these are the pictures that made everybody initially start feeling that energy.
What did we learn about this week?
Extreme Terror. It is Space Tomato. Is that Extreme Terror? How you doing? Be out there with your crops or whatever and A2 flies by. Well, as we will see in one of these demos up here, you're going to be able to install your own anti-air defenses around these places. So you're not left alone. And they're going to have to come up with some way for us to defend our bases even when we're not there, right? We got to. Okay, so the next update we got on these outposts was about 2 months later. So we went from August, September. Now we are here in November. Oh, man. And we're going all the way back here. This is a pretty long update. Let's see what they have to say.
Stuff will work next week. Finally, let's check in once again with the ongoing work of our colonial-style homesteads.
No, Sredna.
Last time, we saw the 2D concepts turned into 3D concepts. And that was a big step in helping us visualize and evaluate the direction we wanted to take them.
So this is going from like he just said, they wrote it down on paper, and then they made those in Blender, and now they've got some kind of concept going on.
What you're seeing here is the next step in that look dev process, where we've now taken the raw, very rough 3D concept meshes and brought them down to a planet in Engine, similar to the way the team reviewed 3D docking concepts by sticking them onto existing space stations.
See, these kind of updates can be a little bit misleading, because these are 3D sketches as opposed to being actual in-game objects, you know? So you gotta pay a lot of attention to what they specifically are saying when they show this stuff.
Now, it's important to note here that these are still concepts, and that the process of building them into viable in-game assets has not yet begun. So let's set our expectations accordingly. Tests like this are used to help us evaluate things like shape language, how the structures feel along or against certain landscapes, what kinds of visual stories can be told through placement, orientation, or combination, and even be used to help identify any...
Okay. Folks, this was kind of, they just did this out of nowhere, but if you look right here, real close, I don't think I can zoom in. If you look right here, this looks kind of like a rock, but not really. Let me pull something up here and see if I should have a picture for this. Hold on. This was a really nice little Easter egg they dropped in. If not, you know, a little early. Where are you? There we are. Okay, check this out. So you can kind of see the similarities between this little thing here and this bad boy right here. This freaking blew us up. I'm actually, if you look at the video, yeah, see, look, this is the most replayed part of the video because everybody came back out. You can't see that my freaking face is in the way. Get out of here, stupid. Okay, see right here, it's the most replayed part of the game of the video because everybody noticed this and went back to look, and yeah, they just snuck in the pyro crab as a little Easter egg. It obviously wasn't ready or anywhere near ready, but I think it pops up 1 or 2 more times in here. Hey, Tiny, thank you for the bits, by the way. Just driving the stream forward today, huh? Time to make crab cakes. You can be the hunter on that. I'll be the chef.
Any sort of structure type that might still be missing from the proposed toy box.
There's going to be crab monster,
Beyond
yeah.
this test, it's also just a really cool...
There's actually, I'll let you in on a little secret. There's also going to be a Yeti-like creature. I think I've got that picture. We've got different little concepts that they've made for some of the creatures they want to have. This is another one. This is the Boreal Stalker on the right of this picture. This is going to be native to Microtech. Well, not native, but we made it so it's there on Microtech. And then obviously you got the Pyro Crab there. I think it's called like the Whip Crab or something like that. And then we've got like, what else is there? They have space whales in development. So this is going to be native to Crusader. Actually be able to go out and like land on them and mine some of the stuff off their backs. You know how whales be. And we've got little cows. Little space cows in development as well. So they've got plenty of plans for wildlife, fauna, aliens, whatever you want to call them in this game. It's just, I mean, look at the human AI right now. Do you really want to have aliens in the game right now? It's going to be a little while, but yeah, we're going to have aliens for sure. That mean we can make zoos in our bases? If you can find a way to trap them in there, I guess it should work.
Look into Star Citizen's future, when one day frontier towns full of NPCs with jobs or missions can be found throughout the universe. And then one day later, players themselves creating outposts all their own.
Yeah.
Rest assured that as work progresses, we'll keep following.
Okay. So that was our November update in 2020. From there, we moved on to January of 2021. Now, during this time, we actually were getting some updates in monthly reports. So it's not like we were completely out of the loop when we weren't getting these video updates. But as you can see, compared to what we're seeing right now, they were giving us way more updates on these outposts back then when they first started. And this is a really interesting one coming up here. So let's take a look.
That's what I'm doing.
Hello, Mr. Propre.
And to wrap things up this week, let's check in.
Super important to note here is the interactive points. Again, that's behind my camera. These little yellow labeled interactive points you can see are, they're planned in here. So you got fuses, as we've heard with the engineering gameplay. You've got a multifunction display, which obviously controls this cooling tower. These are going to be objects that can be interacted with and used on missions, in activities, even in some kind of maybe like training scenarios. Everything has been planned from the start for these outposts to be pretty heavily interactable.
And once again with the team working on colonialism style homesteads. And we have some additional concepting for a variety of add-ons to be found throughout the various encampments, like these cooling stations for enormous server racks, power plants with varying arrays of subcomponents.
Again, you can see more
antenna,
interactive points here.
piping, displays, ladders, and more. Fuel tank arrays with a variety of blockouts altering the way in which they connect with one another as they expand out across the horizon.
And I'm just thinking fuel tanks are going to be really useful for the people who have Starfarers and maybe don't want to sell right away. Store that stuff for later when fuel is a little more expensive. Wish we had more sprint reports. Think we've only had one this year and one in November. Yeah, the sprint reports have died. Overall, the information coming out of CIG has taken a step back this year. At least that's what it feels like.
solar array add-ons for both the power plants we saw before and habitat buildings themselves.
Definitely going to be using solar arrays. That makes sense.
Refinery units.
This is something that we will actually see in the white box phase later in one of these updates. So they've taken this from the concept phase and started to put it in game already. Actually, we've seen these like final art complete in some videos.
And finally, potential blockouts for combining many of those aspects into outdoor storage yards that will form the basis for a wide variety of NPC and player experiences in the future. Now we'll start learning more about how these homesteads will begin.
This is the very first time we ever saw their base building tool, and it looks awful. Very, very, very early. Over the time as we watch these, you will see how this interface improves as well, but they had a big problem with planets before where every single time there was an update in the game, the planetary tech, because it wasn't complete, would update the terrain. So they couldn't put outposts on the planets because they would just, if they didn't update, the outpost would suddenly be underground. They also couldn't do it because they couldn't change terrain, but that's a different problem. This is something that only started to become a reality when the Planetary tech team started to finish their work, which obviously took like 4 years since they started in 2015. They kind of finalized and launched their first version in like 2020, 2021. So you want to do base building, you want to do these small points of interest, but at the same time, it's hard to test them in a live environment when that live environment deletes them every time you do. So you can kind of see how one feature taking a long time made it so that other features that depended on that took even longer. So it's a bummer, but it happens quite a bit in some of Star Citizen stuff. Tiny, thank you for taking that community sub-broker role. Appreciate you gifting that out. Hope you enjoy. Both of you or anybody else who got a sub today, make sure to get on our Discord server. You're gonna get all of the secret codes for our 400i giveaway, so you'll be able to get extra entries in there. You're also gonna have access to all the exclusive videos on YouTube. So YouTube people can just go to the main page and find those videos. Twitch supporters, if you go to the Discord channel and go to the supporter alerts channel, you can actually see all 7 of the last exclusive videos that haven't been released yet. Check them out. Discord link, just type in !Discord. That'll pop it up. Do I think they are moving faster for making planets? Yes, absolutely. We could see it as they made all the planets, how they got better and better and faster. And I think once they're done with Pyro, we'll probably see even more of their improvements with Nyx.
These homesteads will begin being integrated into the persistent universe in the coming months. So what did we learn this week? Well,
all right, so starting to kind of tease the base building, still looking at these concepts of locations and assets and props and stuff, but we're getting more of a sense of the interactability that they want to provide and an idea of what these outposts will actually be. Oh, why am I on this page? I don't need this. Jumping forward just a month, they get, for the first time, they start showing us the interior, the details of these places. I think it was the work with the River Tech that allowed them to modify the terrain on placement. Yes, those two things were definitely linked. So here is some props and interior work for the first time, giving us some more insight into what these will look like from our own perspective.
As work on the colonialism-style homesteads continues, the props team, hungry to join the fight, has jumped in with a variety of food-related items designed to populate one of the principal social areas found within. Now, social areas like this will be...
There were no tomatoes here. What is wrong with you people? They got like goop, but no tomatoes.
Social areas found
Shame.
within. Now, social areas
thanks for the
like
bits.
this will be essential to making the NPC settlements found throughout the persistent universe feel simultaneously alive and lived in, while also serving as potential mission hubs, drop-off points, and general meeting areas for players. And lest you think food is the only thing on the props team's minds, they also broke out into the world of chairs.
Chairs! Wow.
Tables.
Oh! Look at the
Lights?
tables. Oh boy. Love some lights.
control panels, plants, shelves,
these all go together quite well.
and more.
And more chairs.
But outside of home,
All right, so that was a pretty small update, more on the props and stuff, but still, again, every single month they were giving us some kind of a video update. Favorite pizza topping? Cheese. I don't know, besides that, I like meats on my pizza. The second platter has tomatoes, you think? Yeah, they might look different. They might look different. Who knows? You want to buy the Pioneer so bad, but the feature for it won't be out for at least another 2 years. Yeah, that Pioneer's a ways away. Anglamoroth, how you doing? Alt account, you finally caught a stream. Have you been watching them after the fact? It's a lot more fun live. With base building, how detailed do you think that will be? I think it's going to be pretty detailed. As we'll see here, they have built in a lot of ability to change out kind of the dressing of your base, as well as the actual exterior. And I also think, as they've talked about with this specific style, you're going to use more of the materials that are local. So bases might end up looking different in this style on different planets, but we don't really know yet. If you watch the behind the scenes video, you'll see me. I eat pizza on that video, courtesy of Taryn McLean and the good pizza fund of this stream itself. It's a good behind the scenes video. Produced by Mrs. Tomato. Plants do grow different in 0G. Yeah, the tomatoes get nice and plump. Plump! Alright, so here is another update on our Colonialism Outpost. Looks like they are transitioning into white box. So this is February of 2021. About 2.5 years ago now.
looking a bit farther ahead, whiteboxing continues of several of the Colonialism Outpost buildings we've seen concepted over the last several months, using the idea of a small home as their starting point. You can see things like the standalone battery pack, the rooftop solar panel.
Again, these are some of those interactable components that I think we're going to depend on for resource management, but you can see they are consistently highlighting.
And life support units. They've also begun to box out the small garage unit that can comfortably fit an Ursa rover, as well as a ladder up to the roof because we're always thinking about advanced traversal options, as well as some tests using the recently revealed terrain modification tool to see how the overall buildings work with the smoothing volumes. Internally, the team has also begun blocking out the social spaces, the brush extensions that connect each individual module, figuring out where they can hide the placement of viz areas and runtime probes so that they don't create visible seams for players to see, exploring the potential return of the conversation pit, because everything old becomes new again, hab units for players
Old
to
like
decorate
980
store
years
items,
old.
and this party in the bathroom. There's a seashells joke here, but I'm not going to make it. Outside, pre-production has begun on materials explorations and defining exactly how these structures are constructed in the lore of our universe, from the foundation stones at the bottom and up through the various paint layers, to exploring new types of hard surfaces for the interior edge wear effects, which are designed to remove sharp corners from every surface.
This stuff is already looking really good back then.
Kind of building for Star Citizen, so the team is having a lot of fun exploring a more organic looking structure all around. Teams have also begun the...
All right, so materials and stuff started to update. They got it into white box. It was actually in-game, or not in-game, but in-engine in some way. Have they said if bases and hangars will be instance or first come, first serve on locales? They're going to be first come, first serve. Depending on your shard. Yeah. Came in slightly late. Did they announce Planetary Outpost expansion coming soon? No, they haven't made any announcements about it. I thought it would be good for us to do a little bit of a review on them. I think they probably won't be here for at least another year. They're coming with Pyro. But there are a lot of questions about this. We've seen this talked about a lot, and as we're watching now, over the years. So I figured we could do a little update. This is something I'm probably going to start doing with more features and stuff we've been following over the last few years. Good morning, Spore. The standalone battery pack, so Tesla's still around in 30th century. I'm hoping they advanced on that model a little bit. Jumping forward again, just another month, not even another month, 2 weeks to March 12th. These models were getting a lot more solidified in the game engine. Let's take a look.
Now, it wouldn't be a sprint report these days without a continuing look at the progress of our Colonialism Outposts. So here's a look at further white box progress. Most of the work this sprint was in determining all the things white box is normally used for, such as working out how all the various modules will connect and function with one another, figuring out how to set up the necessary.
Now remember what this looks like, because we're going to see this completely finished in an actual gameplay scenario in a little bit.
Viz areas while adapting for the sloped exterior walls, continuing to work out all the necessary runtime environment probes needed to allow lighting from the exterior to creep in through the windows to the interior, and potentially the other way around as well. Basically, it's work preserving the necessary modularity so that these outposts can work in multiple configurations, while adapting the blend tech to properly allow for spill into each room without noticeable lines everywhere. Folks also want to take another pass at this bathroom area, which is currently feeling a bit too much like a spaceship and not what we'd expect to see in a frontier outpost. They're also working with design to mark out interactable areas or future spaces for players to customize their space further with equipment or even decorative flair all their own. The social space in the center has gone through several iterations in the last couple weeks. As things sometimes do, it began to balloon in size before it was decided to bring it back in to a more intimate setting. Here we see one of the various connection collars that can link to a number of different modules, including this garage we first showed a couple weeks ago.
There's the garage for your Titans.
Here is that there should be an airlock here so that the garage can be depressurized if necessary on certain planets or moons, as well as a hatch up above for the very same reason. Ultimately, it's just nice to follow along with the continued progress of these outposts that'll first be used in NPC settlements across Stanton and Pyro, and then eventually be rolled out to player use after that. Finally, before we let you go this week,
again, white box updates, nothing too crazy, but it's nice to see that they've got the spacing figured out, the garage and all that stuff. Tiny STL, you taking that Stream Santa role today? You've been playing SC for a month, and me and Salty Mike are your favorite content creators. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah, Salty Mike's awesome. I've actually had a couple podcast episodes with Salty Mike, and the conversations are always great. Check that out if you're interested. I actually just posted a podcast episode here 4 hours ago, kind of talking about the struggle of Star Citizen, but also the why people continue to play Star Citizen and why it probably isn't going to have too many problems because of Starfield. People keep asking about if Starfield is a problem, is it going to kill Star Citizen, all this kind of stuff, and it's not. And we go over that quite a bit in the video, the differences between them and why people play Star Citizen that Starfield simply won't be shooting for because it's a different type of game. Thanks for gifting those subs out to folks, though. Appreciate you. Modern 8 Ball, same thing as always for you. You can check out those exclusive videos if you'd like. They are all on the Discord. And yeah, just come chat with us. We've got like a little crew in there. It has pros and cons, but it's so enjoyable to you. What is that? Oh, Thursday through Friday, any time of the day. You work Saturday through Tuesday, so you're busy a lot. Saturday through Tuesday, that's an interesting schedule. Do you enjoy the work? Base building is something you're really excited about, Lotso, but slightly worried about the FCFS bases. What is that? Do I see them running out of spots for bases to be built? I don't. No. There's so much space in this game. Even right now, I don't think if base building was a thing, I don't think we'd run out of space with just one system. Once we start having, 6, 7, 8 systems and reasons to be in all of them, I think would be fine. You love space games? Ah, that works. I also love space games. I've been looking for another one to cover besides Star Citizen, so I'm happy that Starfield is finally starting to get a little bit more activity. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. If you're just getting in here, we are going over the what's going on with the what's it called? We are going over what the new updates, the new God dang it. We're going over what the new Outposts are trying to do. I'm trying to click on stream elements over here in chat and it keeps
Stream elements is the
okay.
best. Bay elements.
That's what I was really trying not to do. Sorry, I just wanted to see something on their profile and make sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. We're going over the outposts that are coming to Star Citizen and what exactly they are going to bring to the game. They've talked about them for a long time and we haven't really gotten an update in a while. So I thought we could go over all of the stuff we've learned about and understand a little bit more about what their plans are. What kind of work do I do? This is our work. Me and Mrs. Tomato run Space Tomato Gaming. It is our family business. It is all of our income. All of the support we get through these streams goes into helping us create more content and live life. What are my thoughts on Starfield? I love it. I'm super pumped for it. I've been waiting for a game like Starfield for a long time. Mass Effect has kind of dropped off, unfortunately, so I'm really excited to see what they do with Starfield. Full-time tomats, yes. Full-time tomatoes, honestly. You will, if you watch our behind-the-scenes videos, Mrs. Tomato's always got a camera out. Everything is content, and she's recording it. Outposts. Outposts! In all caps. Giveaway is ending in 2 days, as Mrs. Tomato mentioned. 400i if you're interested in winning something extra special and extra green. Ah, god dang it.
Stream element.
I'm sorry. YouTube chat is not very good for selecting stuff. I keep double clicking on the names on accident. Where was I? Oh, now we're on Twitter. Where did we go? I'm sorry. I got us so off track here. Okay. So another update came in from them on April 23rd, 2021. Again, another month in between updates. They were just on it with this.
It wouldn't be a sprint report without a look at the continuing progress of our Colonialism outpost being worked on for Pyro and other Frontier systems. Now this week, the props team has begun whiteboxing out some of the various accoutrements that may one day fill the interior spaces. Things like beds, rugs that will eventually get some nice physicalized deformation so they really tie the rooms together, all manner of lamps, drapes that can hang in front of windows and diffuse the runtime lighting in new and exciting ways, and some righteous pottery to unchain the melodies of our hearts. That's a joke for the 90s people who will understand that reference.
That looks like toilet paper. This looks like a roll of toilet paper, which, you know, is okay. We need that there. So this is just more prop work, but they are getting more detailed with it.
So they really tie the rooms together.
Like this stuff was before we were just looking at kind of like the walls and things, and now they're starting to look at more of the furniture and the details of the outpost. So they did some good work on this over that first year after they introduced it. And this is another update jumping to the next month in May. You're gonna be stuck for hours in the character creator. Oh, and Starfield. Never been crazy about super detailed characters, but I like that they're building that in. Lotso, thanks for the Prime sub on Twitch. Much appreciation. It goes a long way.
More realistic as the team continues their efforts. Now, it's been a month since we last looked in on the continuing work building our upcoming Colonialism homesteads. I know, I couldn't believe it either. So let's check in with some of the prop plants currently in development. Now the team is looking not just for a variety of different shapes and silhouettes, but also the potential for indoor personal harvestables that players can pick, and the variations of all of these at different stages of life and death. So great. Another chance to disappoint my mother by being unable to keep houseplants alive both in the real world and now virtually. As for the homesteads themselves, they're working their way through Greybox now, so let's take a look inside at this internal review that was done just a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so this is way more detailed, huh?
As for the homesteads themselves...
Remember, we just saw this in that really, really undetailed white box with all the gray, not detail-y stuff going on.
They're working their way through Greybox now, so let's take a look inside at this internal review that was done just a couple weeks ago.
And for those who are wondering what like gray box and white box and all that stuff is, it's actually terms that you mainly hear with their ship creation pipeline. But what happens is white box is meant to determine the dimensions of space, make sure that all the clearances are right, doorways are big enough, hallways are big enough, windows are in the right place, that kind of stuff. Gray box is when you start to add detail, chamfers, textures, and things like that. So that's why this looks pretty good, but not quite complete. Yeah, this is like the exact same spot that we saw here, right? That's the same room. So that's kind of a good look at the difference between white box, which is this. Blow this up a little bit. This is white box, and then this is gray box of the exact same place. Different lighting, better prop placement. Everything looks a little bit more detailed and textured. Just as an example. What are we watching? Just going through all of the updates they've given on the new outposts that they're working on for the Pyro system. So these are something we'll probably start seeing when the new star system comes in. Oh, they haven't even started putting NPCs in at this point. You will see the same exact place with actual NPCs and stuff in it in a little bit.
And outside, whoa! Okay, we're gonna see more of that planet starting next quarter.
Oh, they're little Pyro
quarter,
teasers back then when we didn't know what they were doing with Pyro, and they kind of didn't know what they were doing with Pyro. Okay, this is a very, very quick little update I thought was interesting for us to put in here. This is just a quick comment from Jared talking about these colonialism outposts that I thought would be interesting to include just because he says something a little interesting here.
Just having a conversation.
Also the pyro stations as well.
I was literally just having a conversation with somebody the other day about the colonialism stuff because we were showcasing it quite regularly on our sprint reports, and then we're holding back now because it's you might see it in somewhere else soon. That's really obvious and coming up.
So that was just, it was, again, a little teaser about Pyro, but this was 2 months before we got this. This is going to be our kind of big feature of the day. They go into quite a bit. Oh my God, we've only been doing this for an hour. This is, I've gone through this pretty fast. This is kind of them talking more in detail about what their plans are for this, and just in general, this was CitizenCon from 2021, so a lot of you might remember this, but there's a lot of good info in here as to like what their thinking is and what direction they want to go in here. Plants in-game process the light from in-game lamps by photosynthesis, and since in-game lamps use real electricity, then the in-game plants are real. Stanko, I think you're onto something. We might be able to solve climate change this way. You just need to plant more plants in video games. You know, and include solar arrays so that those plants can be. I don't know. You think it's confusing, at least for the ships, on how they describe it for ships? They say white box for ships, but then the ship matrix says something completely different than a typical phase system we hear about. Ah, the ship matrix. The ship matrix is. People like to call it the Matrix of Lies. I won't give it that name, but I will say it is the misleading Matrix. It definitely doesn't tell you the whole story of what's going on, and it's pretty out of date. So I wouldn't even look at it. Bless the Asura. Blessed. How you doing? Welcome in, friend. That name is deserved. Honestly, the website overall is just, it struggles. It struggles. All right, let's take a look at what they have to say about these outposts. We'll get a lot of art here, a lot of talking, but a lot of pretty pictures and stuff too.
When we started looking at Outposts and started really from a ground up on how to make it so that there's more diverse gameplay in there, the player can approach it in multiple different routes. There can be combat encounters, there can be social encounters. So we needed to kind of rebuild and rethink the way that we were doing this. We started honing in on what was working, what wasn't working, and then did a lot of adjustments.
Yeah. We've had Outposts in our game for some time. You know, when we started to hear from an art side for what the design requirements are going to be, fundamentally thinking about these as modules, thinking about them as thematic modules and, you know, very specific, then, you know, already like the mind was going of like, okay, we're going to need a kind of like a paradigm shift in terms of how we visually present these. You know, what could these settlements...
Come on, like, look at that. You know exactly what they were going for with that shot.
In terms of how we visually present these. You know, what could these settlements kind of feel like? And, you know, as with everything with Outposts, it's you know, it's a gameplay or it's a location archetype. It's the smallest, probably one of the smallest location archetypes.
Okay, this is a super important line. There are actually a lot of questions about like, hey, these outposts are kind of small, they're cool, but can we use something that's a little bit more town or village sized? And he addresses that directly here.
Or it's a location archetype. It's the smallest, probably one of the smallest location archetypes that we have. And then in time that will lead to like, you know, villages and towns. And
yeah, thinking about how we wanted to push this forward. I mean, Chris has always talked about putting Outposts into players' hands. And
how you doing, man?
We needed to think about how would this expand? How would the players be able to make these homes feel, you know, homes or outposts or even businesses feel unique for the way that they want to play? And then there were even tools that we had to create in order to actually be able to embed these into the ground and make sure that it worked much better than what we did in Stanton, because with those we had to have them kind of on stilts and you know, just the points of contact were very limited for the ground.
Right. If I connect these modules together, how do we get something that doesn't feel like...
Well, I know that design, we came up, in particular Andreas and Dan came up with a long list of things, you know, okay, well, here's what we'll need in HABs, here's what we'll need, you know, for utilitarian, here's what we'll need for defenses, here's what we'll need for power and some oxygen, life support, so on and so forth. So there was a very long list, and then it's how...
Right, we know about life support, right?
And life support, so on and so forth.
This is basically the same thing they're working on for spaceships. They're just talking about putting it on an outpost, which I think is great. Doing well. Got you up in the background while I'm work. Somebody said earlier, actually, I forgot to respond to that. Somebody said, what a world we live in. Enjoying a cigar out on the lawn while listening to Tomato. Hello from Norway. I think it was something like that. Hello out there to Norway. I'm glad it's good enough temperature that you can be out on the lawn enjoying a cigar. Technology!
So there was a very long list, and then it's how can we take those and make them feel unified and visually unified together.
Yeah. Fundamentally, the thing that probably got us the most excited is finally we're starting to think about these as like unified settlements, you know, base building. So as you can see on some of the concepts, we deliberately presented early exploration shots in this kind of like semi-isometric view to see, how does it feel if I'm laying out my base? How would these modules kind of, tie together? And it kind of got the team excited. And finally, we were thinking, all right, these settlements are going to be more than just, like a single outpost, but more like a collection of modules. So just to continue on with the module building and the module creation, we can jump to Christian. And Christian can talk in a bit more detail about the visual development process we did for creating the exteriors of these new outposts.
It'd be sick if we had a reason to drive from nearby Refinery Village to Loreville or vice versa. I do think that is something that they're going to try and do more of. As we can see that we have NPCs able to drive ground vehicles and underground facilities with underground, obviously, areas. And then also building interiors with underground areas. I think there's a lot of potential for them to combine these places in some way. Just like you're saying. Are there any systems that have binary stars? I think there's one. Yeah, I think there's one or two systems that have 2 stars. There's actually another system that I think only has a black hole in it. Like if you go into the Arc star map, there are a few systems that are pretty interesting from the physics standpoint. Crazy how far the art is ahead of the engine in this game. Well, it's a lot easier to draw a picture than it is to build a game engine, I think. You're a 3D modeler. It's hard to overstate how time-consuming and difficult it can be making a model be both great and also performant. Well, there you go. Got a lot of optimization to do on these kinds of things, huh? All right, so let's look at the exterior concept development, what they've talked about here.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the colonialism, and now I'm going to show you a little bit more about the modules.
Oh, they're still building the
the
game
first
engine,
thing
yeah.
we did was creating all the primitives and all the primitive shapes into 3D. So as you can see here, we have a lot of variety, right? There's the cubic coming in, there's the cylinder coming in, the spheres coming in. For example, if I take this building over here and I duplicate it and move it around, I could just simply grab some of the other ones and combine them together. And you will see later on that this is one of our archetypes, or one that we pretty much liked, right? So you can see here already there's a lot of variety of entrances, maybe some garages, maybe some smaller entrances for those NPCs or for the players, right? And if I zoom in, all of a sudden you can already see like how they react to the environment or the overall scale, right? So if I pan over here and you see these buildings on the back in the background, so you're always having a first-person standpoint or a first-person view. So we were not only creating those entrances, but also smaller details and very briefly looking into the modules. So what you can see here is the very first concepts for the solar panels, for example, or the top-mounted, the roof-mounted solar panels. In the background, you see some other nice details that we can then just pick and put on our buildings, right? And some of the very last that we did is then pretty much those. So those were one of the archetypes. And you see there are small buildings for housing or housing buildings. There are some building types that are more communal. We have some secondary and tertiary buildings.
890 jump building confirmed. Doesn't look big enough though.
Like those radio towers. If you imagine you're a
farming
colonist on a planet, right? On
the greenhouse.
There are multiple settlements on a planet. How would they communicate with each other? So we have kind of a radio tower.
Probably pigeons.
Or some of those cooling devices. So if you imagine maybe there's something underground, there's an even bigger facility underground because you're on a very hostile planet environment. So you want to store your very sensitive data under.
God, I really, really hope that they can like combine an underground facility with an outpost, because the underground facilities we know right now are just huge structures. The ones that they've been showing us they're going to be making are just massive buildings sticking out of the ground with then a lot of underground stuff going on beneath. Wouldn't it be really cool though if it was just like stealthy, there was no massive structure underground, just maybe a single landing bay or a single elevator that goes down, and all you have to know there's something under there is like he said, these cooling things and radio towers and stuff. Ah, man. There's so much potential, and they have so much other stuff to do. You think about these things, and then you're like, well, there's way more important things that they probably will have to get to, so it might not happen. Have they said anything about bombs and player ships crashing having an impact craters eventually? Not craters in the ground. In the water, yes, but I don't know about ground deformation caused by us. They've been a little bit iffy about that. Been getting video of these for how many years, and we still only barely have the wrecked versions. We're not going to get these in game until Pyro is ready. That is definitely the consistent messaging we get with all of these videos we've been watching. They're not going to put these in Stanton. We might get like the derelict versions in Stanton, but I don't think they're going to put these actual Colonialism outposts in Stanton. I think they're probably trying to make a splash with them in Pyro before they spread them out to other places. Silhouettes are helpful for testing recognition and cool factor. I mean, cool factor is like the most important part, right? Who cares about functionality? Oh, Frenchie. Having some losses out there, huh? Something as simple as a bolt can be the difference between a game-ready model and not, especially if the ship has a large quantity of them. Polys can add up quickly. I wish they had nanite. It'd be cool if they had something like that.
Ground, and we were looking at those hints of life. Maybe you are a kind of a farmer. So you see already, this is the first archetype. This is more cylindrical. There are some storage spaces coming in here and there. So where would you store your oxygen or your water, gases, for example?
Love cylindrical buildings.
Just a consideration from our side. Going over to the next one. This is more pyramidical. So we were looking at also again the same material.
Oh crap!
Changing up the material.
Nope.
Now it's
Sorry.
again more concrete, and the color palette is changing. There are some of the storage coming in, and going then over to the next one, it is again looking at different materials. There's some storage buildings that are not in one big storage facility, but it's divided into smaller parts. So you have to walk around your settlement and see like, okay, I can put some stuff in here, but if I need something else, then I need to walk over there. And there is some playing around with some more entrances and windows. How do they react to the environment, right? So this was just one of the very many files that we created. So those are mostly buildings, but
this thing right here, we're gonna see this in game in a little bit. They actually got this into the game with no real explanation. They don't tell us what they're gonna be used for. We just know that they're being made and they are starting to actually exist, and they drop them into Inside Star Citizen every once in a while. But I don't think until we see Pyro, we're actually going to see these things in game.
Different files for assets and props, and how they would fit inside this main architectural style that we wanted to see more involved, right? So just a very early version of the refinery, for example. But all of this in the end was given us the opportunity to just cherry pick the best ideas that we felt appropriate for this specific colonialism style, right? And where other people were able then to just grab the best parts and then use it in the actual game engine. Yeah, this was pretty much the concept development for the colonialism modules. I hope you have a great time, and wish you all the best for the next panels that are coming up.
Thanks. All right, so yeah, now we're going to do the same thing for interiors. Round buildings are apparently better for heat circulation, have less exterior surface area for heat to escape from. I can say this, designing a building with 4 walls and orienting it to have a high, I don't even know what to call it other than an ASHRAE certification, like to have a high, I guess, good use of power and insulation is very difficult because, you know, the sun and stuff. I've never worked on a round building when it came to heat transfer and stuff, but I imagine that would be an interesting problem to solve. Unfortunately, I was just not doing that work long enough to get around to that. But yeah, they are a very practical choice. I mean, you definitely have more of an option of blocking out the sun, I guess.
Awesome, thanks Cristiano. So that pretty much covers the work we've been doing on the exteriors. So now let's jump to the interiors. So we pretty much had to follow that same idea.
Arca Legion, thank you for the sub, by the way, with your Prime. Really appreciate you.
Slightly more simple, we knew there was a few key areas that we needed to design. First, it was the social space. You know, this is basically these kind of communal hubs. We knew we wanted like that open kitchen, seating areas.
I freaking love this picture. Honestly, I could just like look at these people's art stations for hours. There's so much going on here. There's so much to like drink in, and it's still such a kind of like a rough sketch. Like you can tell the lines aren't necessarily picked out. But I love the vibe that you get from these colonialism outposts. Just so much different from what we have in Stanton, which is really cool. I adore the fact that you can go from one system to another, or even one planet to another, and see that much diversity.
Windows, an area where people could kind of hang out and, you know, relax. And then second to that was habitation. You know, we knew these are going to need to be abodes. We knew we needed
Stanco.
bathrooms, hab units. But again, nothing in here would be, you know, pre-manufactured. So we wanted actual beds.
Did that say interaction point on the toilet? Oh, it's just the button to flush. The detail.
You know, pre-manufactured. So we wanted actual beds, not racks of beds. So everything about this process was about, you know, creating a good design which you would look at and relate to and think, oh, I could see myself living there. I could see someone living there for quite a long period of time. So in habitation, you know, it's soft surfaces, soft shapes, but again, something which felt fairly integrated into the core architecture. In contrast to that, we knew we needed technical spaces. You know, these could be used in the future to be, I don't know, soil processing rooms or anything really.
Got to process that soil
bracket. So this one was quite a tricky one because, again, we needed to describe a feeling of age and, you know, a type
okay, see, now this looks wildly different from everything else we've been seeing. This looks more like the building interior stuff they've shown us. You're hot for corners. It's always 90 degrees in at least 4 places in square buildings. Yeah, then you have to put your windows in the right spots. The other thing about dome structures is that they're inherently stable too. Oh God, but it's so hard to clean the ceilings, man. That's more of whenever we go and look at places like apartments or something to move into, that's one of the first thing that Mrs. Tomato points out. If it's got high ceilings, she's like, how are we going to clean that? We're going to have to get a ladder for that. That guy on the bed was trying to decide between cargo running or pirating a cargo runner. Or both. Play both sides.
of historical depth in this. So we tried a few you know, visual cues, like, you know, there's the physical tape deck, you know, the clicky buttons, you know, again, to give you that feeling of like, all right, this isn't necessarily like a modern technology level, you know. And then the last major visual archetype was engineering. So these are the type of spaces, it could be a power room or an engine room, or some areas if your armor got beat up, you could, you know, repair your armor in there. Basically, it's a language which will enable us to create a variety of like engineering type spaces. And then once we'd established a spread of visual archetypes, we knew that they were all working well together. We could take that as a format and then start to think more about actual themes that we wanted in these outposts.
Yeah, kind of looking at who would be the people that would be inhabiting it, what are the circumstances that would drive them to be there. And so we sort of came up with, like, I call it the triangle of kind of the
This from 2021.
Sort of the independent, the outlaw, and the corporate. and where the inhabitants would fall somewhere in that spectrum of 3 points. And it's also important to note too, that this stuff would be applicable for the stuff we've done in Stanton. Like if we wanted to add these backwards in Stanton as well, that it wasn't just exclusively Pyro based.
Yeah, so they keep acknowledging that this is something for Pyro. Maybe they'll bring them to Stanton at some point, but they did not have any plans, at least as of the end of 2021, to do so. Wish we could spawn in at these locations. Maybe it's a hostile where you can camp out overnight. We will. We will spawn in at these locations. In fact, I think one of the updates I'm going to show a little bit later is going to talk about HABs at these locations where you'll be able to log off on a bed.
Basically, when we was doing the design process, we pretty much focused on independent, mainly because that was our baseline. It was very easy to kind of design these and visually design these spaces to, is it like an independent farmer or is it an independent miner? And then with that, we wanted to really create an experience where you walked into one of these outposts and it feels old. It feels relatable, but it doesn't feel recognizable.
We haven't seen so much of this. We're going to see a lot of concept art during this video of different sort of overlays of these outposts. We've seen almost none of these. You guys will see this in game in a little bit here. It's just crazy how much potential there is with this stuff. And as Space Cadet's saying in chat, obviously it's taken a long time for them to build this stuff. We're going to see in monthly reports in a little bit here that even after all of this work has happened, just now, starting in the last like 6 to 7 months, they're finally getting the lighting team to get in there and finally, bring in the last little bits of polish that they need for the locations to go live. That's, lighting, VFX, audio stuff. So I'm really excited to see how they scale these out. But ultimately, the best part of this is that they are building so many sets. They call them, I think, content packs or something like that, where they just have a massive amount of variety of these things and they can start throwing them on planets in huge numbers with different sort of modularity and designs. It's going to be like nothing we've seen in Stanton. Because again, Stanton always had that problem of planets were always changing. That's why all of the outposts are on stilts. Because they couldn't even have the outpost sitting on the ground because of how the ground would change. Somebody pointed it out in chat earlier. You still see rocks floating in the air. So Stanton is nowhere near, I think, the experimental phase of Pyro and what we're going to see from these Pyro locations. And that's just the second system. What happens is we go to Nyx and Terra and build in new architectural styles and actually have AI and NPCs mattering here and have missions and stuff we can do at these locations. It's very fun, but like a lot of Star Citizen, it's the potential, It's going to take ages to debug it. Best of luck to them. They got a big company.
Kind of similar to if you went to like a historic ruin or a historic part that you'd never really been to before.
Or, somebody's old farm.
Exactly. So we did a lot of exploration process of like, what type of artifacts would you find there? How did people used to decorate the house in this time period? You'd still see patterns, surfaces, shapes.
That's a creature / fermented wine. It just says homemade snake. Snake oil? Homemade snake oil. There's literally a snake in the jar. Counterfeit coin presser. See, that just gives me outlaw mission vibes. Like, the potential. Grandchildren is going to love all of this. Hey, I'll always say it. If our grandchildren are playing this game, that's a success. That's pretty dang good. If you can track it, because I'm not going to have grandchildren for like 40 years. If you can track a game from being in your 20s to having grandchildren, they did something right. Kind of hope we get some non-city surfaces for ArcCorp. I think it's in the plans, yeah.
Period. You'd still see patterns, surfaces, shapes in these independent
outposts.
Yeah, even early versions of modern technology. So you could see that, you know, oh, this is like the mobiGlas I have, but it's an older mobiGlas, or just as an example.
But also when we were, even just to back up a little bit, when we're talking about the planets, we have a certain style, or we have certain amounts of points of interest that we want to go to, how we pull the player around the universe. And so Dave and I and Will and others sit down and talk and say, all right, what do we need here? And all right, well, we need mining facilities. And then that helps to inform Ian and the other design teams and our teams of, all right, is that an independent theme? Is it a corporate theme? Is it an outlaw theme? So these are all kind of layers, but the first and foremost, it's, oh, this is farming, or this is mining, or this is, you know, cargo.
Because looking at something like Pyro 2, which, you know, again, starting from that sort of original Précis sentence of the planet, was the idea, was like that was a heavily mined out planet that had been kind of stripped of a lot of resources. So there would be remaining infrastructure that would have been corporate back in the day, but is now independent or now even an outlaw setting. So, and then there would be the ones that would just be a straight independent one and stuff like that. But yeah, exactly like you said, you know, we'd start with that sort of the base and then apply the theming to it to kind of.
When we're thinking about the theming, we kind of wanted like a space catalog, like a furniture catalog. So I know this is quite big for Chris, is we kind of went down that process of
Sky Mall?
Okay, let's design this one independent
Citizen Mall?
outpost in a few different ways. Like how could people have decorated it in many different ways? And it was quite a fun process because you basically create space furniture catalogs.
This gives me Star Wars vibes in the sense that, like, even though you're in this sort of super high-tech era of spaceships flying around and stuff, they still have people who are like living in tribes who don't have power systems, who are like making very rudimentary tools to do things. You have like this really, really weird gap in technology. Not sure how that works in Pyro. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that happening in a system as central as Pyro. But they're going to have to really, really go at it with the lore and the narrative to like build in reasons for this kind of stuff to exist in game. Can you see that? Nope, of course you can't. Let me just build in reasons for stuff like this in the game. I'm totally fine with it, but I think they need to have some pretty convincing lore to back it up.
Which again are going to be ways for the developers to be able to dress and world build, but you know eventually maybe it's a way for people to decorate their own spaces. You know, when we're thinking about the outlaw versions of these outposts, again the process is very similar. You think about the visual rule sets which would turn this into an outlaw outpost, namely, you know, has it been taken over by hostile intent? You know, is the signs of combat, is the signs of destruction still present? The actual physical act of occupying one of these outposts, have they defended it, have they boarded it up?
Yeah, it could be any number of situations. Yeah, it could be outlaws are squatting here and they're operating it as a base, which makes it a potential combat space. Or is it, you know, was it potentially an independent refinery that outlaws attacked and killed everybody there, and now
is it a drug facility, so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Jump down.
And then lastly, on with the corporate, you know, it's something that we really want to advance out into in the future, but that feeling that this location is owned by a corporate umbrella, you know, that would tie into the branding. You know, maybe it ties into the costumes that you'd expect the NPCs to be in there. You know, so there's a huge amount of visual world building that we can do to, you know, present these outposts in a few different ways.
And even potentially reputation.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I love that world building. I don't know what the lore in Star Wars is. I'm sure they've got something to explain it. And I don't think it's going to be a big issue. But I do hope that they double down on, like, making sure that we are aware of why things are like that, you know? There are so many games that I play that I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I'm really curious about this stuff. And there's just never an explanation. Or maybe you have to go online and look at the wiki. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to talk to NPCs or find old data pads or records of things that happened that prove why the system is the way it is. Why is Grimhex a thing in Stanton, right? Why is there a military base in Stanton? Why is Stonehenge or not a Bennyhenge in Stanton? There are some answers to those things, but being able to find that stuff in game, especially on a mission or in a point of interest or something, that's what really builds a game out, in my opinion. That's part of why I'm so excited for Starfield, because Bethesda does really freaking good at that. And I think CIG does a pretty decent job at that. I don't think they've been in the position to really double down on that since they're just focusing on building in the systems right now. But I'm looking forward to how the narrative team is going to get more involved with this, as they have started to this summer or this year.
As well, like we talked before about that idea that you know, if you do missions for a corporate outpost, that it, you know, reflects in your general relationship with that corporation.
I mean, that ties into the clan tags. Like, maybe you've just come from one of the
Think
space
Firefly.
stations that...
Hey, did I read that Firefly is making a comeback? Serenity? Is that a thing? Or did I just, am I crazy?
You know, was occupied by a certain gang type, and then they sent you to a settlement on one of the surfaces of Pyro, and clearly it's been, you know, tagged by a different gang. So you basically want that read and that consistency throughout. Now, one of the Outpost themes that I was quite excited about getting into was the idea of a trading outpost. You know, we've been talking about, you know, buying and selling for a while, but thinking about it in a frontier context, you know, it's almost like the money's kind of worthless, you know, but it's more about the ability to barter or you know, trade. So fundamentally, I thought it'd be cool that if we kind of design a module which focuses around one of these trading posts. So within a planet, you know, it's where, you know, people would kind of, you know, trek to and, you know, barter or trade components and then go back. You know, we was talking about the idea of if I had a farm in the middle of nowhere, like, would I want a load of credits, or would I want that one component that, you know, kept my farm going, you know? So so we did, you know, we took that idea and we ran with it, and we did some visual exploration into what would a trading post be like on one of these frontier outposts. So as you can see on the images, we wanted that feeling of the majority of the stuff around this outpost is pretty much junk. You know, spaces isn't at a premium, so they just keep it outside. You know, maybe it's rusting, maybe it's rotting, maybe it's, you know, getting overgrown. But I love that idea is as you're approaching one of these settlements, it's very easy to understand, all right, this is a trading post, because, you know, there's just all of that stuff like hodgepodge around the outside.
Well, and it opens up another aspect to it, which is the characters who inhabit it, because the sort of general shop experience that you have with the storekeeper is very conventional. This is you know, what we've done so far has been a lot of franchise stores, actual companies that own, you know, that are selling wares, you know, who have customer service and stuff like that. And the idea being that out here, the experience is going to be much more different. It's not going to be that polished.
Exactly.
It's going to be much more of a personal interaction with somebody. So it's been really fun talking with, you know, the AI and behavior guys to try and work out exactly like how is that dynamic supposed to work and you know, and feel like for the player.
All right, cool. So that was a little bit about the interiors of these
I love the idea of having specialized outposts. They kind of do it already in Stanton, but it doesn't feel super significant unless you're like trying to sell scrap or drugs or something.
Gagnon, principal concept artist on Star Citizen. Today I will present the interior colonialism outpost concept and explain a bit how the pre-production process works. The goal is to create an interior design for the Homestead Colonialism Outpost. It was the first time we had to create a timeless design look.
What's up, T-Love?
We have the objective to create something warm and with a cozy feeling interior. At the beginning, we started from this concept art made by Christian Dorwitz. We have a lot of information in there to inspire the interior design. In those interior, we have a specific zones. Social area, place to eat together, play game, leisure, the bedroom, place to relax, have a proper personal space, and of course, sleeping. The engineering room, the place for the building machine who maintains the possibility to survive there. The technical room, the appropriate space to analyze minerals, some elements of the planet entrance, used for storage material and stuff to
And
go outside.
entering.
At the beginning, we had an overview of the plant that's helped to organize the zone. To create all of those areas, we need to do a lot of exploration and design. Social area. For those sketches, we want a centerpiece on the ceiling. Could be a light, fan, or whatever that could be cool. We feel the curvy shape of that space. Here on this sketch, I play with a very contrast values and a greenish color palette. That one is the best. Long vertical windows from the side, let the light inside a lot. After validation of the most relevant sketch, we do a 3D blackout. As you see, this 3D blackout follows very closely to the last sketches. From the screenshot of the 3D blackout, I did a sketch over in a
pretty
gray
good.
tone value. That helps to better organize the coloring phase to make sure all the elements fit and will live together. After this, I like to do a 2D elevation concept. It's a good way to make sure all elements fit together and the ratio proportions between each of them. The final key shot of the social area brings it alive. Nice lighting comes from the windows. Cozy mood give a soul to this social area. Now my concept art co-workers extract the elements from this key shot and break down the props to define more accurately. First, the homestead radial contour done by Danny Chan from the UK. That concept is the perfect blueprint to start the production. The color lighting people food is there on this one. More close-up version on specific zones of the radial kitchen contour. Some explanation are had to properly convey the intent of each part. All the details are there to define a fully functional stove.
Hold up, those look like tomatoes. What is that? They might be plums. Pluots? I don't know. They're red though, so I'm gonna call them tomatoes.
All the details are there to define a fully functional stove. For the bedroom area, the process is the same as the social area. The sketch phase is essential. As you see here is an example of grayscale sketch. From one of those shots, we get a validation from art directors and CR. And boom, this is the final one. To detail the engineering room, we again go back to the painting technique. This process again is key to send us in the right direction. The detail of the machinery, cabling, metal grates really help convey the ambience of the room and also informs what players will have to do when they go to this place. For the technical room, we wanted to make sure the technology came through. Again, it's the same process where we start from manual painting to set the tone and then deep dive into color, elevation, and then the final key piece. To make the homestead a living space, the bathroom props are important to define the functionality of
interaction
futuristic
points.
hygiene.
Literally the water knob.
Finally, let's exit by the entrance. This is the first sketch exploration I did for Star Citizen. The goal of the homestead entrance is to show what the player has access to and set the overall ambience of the place. A huge thanks to all for helping to make the final result in the game match the amazing work that is produced during pre-production. I sincerely hope you will enjoy living in those homesteads in Star Citizen. Thanks everybody.
Whenever I can.
Thanks, Eric. Awesome stuff.
Now that we've shown a lot of art and talked a lot of theory, we want to get into game and show off what we've been working on.
Here we
We're going
go.
to be showing you multiple.
You guys want to see just the parts with the outposts, or do you just kind of want to watch this demo through? It's your call. I will probably skip ahead because there are 3 different scenarios, but the main point of this is to kind of see what they did, bringing all of this concept work, all the white box stuff we've looked at over the last hour or so, and actually put it into a game scenario so somebody can play through it.
And how it changes based off of what you do and how you have faction with the certain game.
Watch it through. Of course. Of course.
So here we are waking up in 400i that will be released in 315. This is the competitor to the Constellation. Doesn't compromise cargo for vehicle storage. It's faster, more agile than the Connie, and it can run with a smaller crew. So this is the captain's quarters, and then we'll go out and see a little bit more.
Oh, I never noticed there was a window in the captain's quarters in this ship. That's cool.
Habitation deck, and then make our way to the cockpit. So this would be the social area that you can meet and eat and basically plan your next mission. And then from here, we'll go to the cockpit.
It's a beautiful ship. I really like the 400 Eyes interior.
So here we're over Pyro 3. We've come here for a mission to acquire an artifact. And you'll be making your way down to a trading post. So
these clouds are nowhere near what we have in game right now. But it's nice to see that what they did with ArcCorp is pushing more towards this direction with the clouds, because what we had before was nothing like this. Now we can start to see that verticality, that sort of cloud sandwich design that they talk about here. We just need to see higher fidelity, better lighting, less of that grainy sort of look, and the weather that we experience when we go through here.
Wanted to just give you a quick overview, and then we can start talking about the planet.
Yeah, Pyro 3 is just a terrestrial planet. It has a very thin...
Actually, I do see some of that artifacting over here. If you watch this part of the clouds, you can still see that sort of graininess. So this clearly was still even struggling with that problem.
Yeah, Pyro 3 is just a terrestrial planet. It has a very thin, breathable atmosphere.
ArcCorp's looking great right
but
now.
It's still pretty inhospitable, very cold.
This is the first ship you bought outside of Pledge.
Some of those lightning strikes.
That's a big step up.
But yeah, very, very pretty looking.
So this is the first time we're actually seeing clouds above a terrestrial planet. You know, we went through quite a few iterations of forms. What we ultimately...
Was this before we ever got clouds on Microtech? Oh man, and then we got the clouds on Microtech that looked nothing like this.
ended upon was something that felt quite dramatic, still believable in terms of how the wind would have shaped them. But yeah, it's showcasing a lot of the more recent tech that came online. Also, what we're seeing here is some...
Ultimately, it's really nice to see that these things that are in these details that look so impressive and so cool that sometimes you think that's just not going to come to the game actually does end up coming to the game. I'm really glad that we can see clouds that look like this in game, because I still would be kind of, a little skeptical as if we were going to if they hadn't made it yet.
There's some kind of distant thunder strikes. And what this is, it's kind of like a prelude to future weather features that will be coming on board, and how this will tie into, storms and ship handling, due to the turbulence. And it's great seeing the, the rain hit the canopy glass here, when you go through these cloud banks. Also, as part of the process of shaping, one of the things we really wanted to do is create these kind of these pockets in between the clouds. So you're in these cavities, so as you're flying through, you get a glimpse of the terrain beneath you,
which we now see. That's nice.
It feels really quite exhilarating, to fly through. Also, as well, it's showcasing a lot of the more recent tech coming on board as well. So it's a lot of optimizations been going on. So it's way more performant than previously it was. Also, the level of artifacting that we're seeing here is substantially reduced, certainly on higher spec machines.
It also gives you a great sense of parallax when you fly through these cloud sandwiches.
A cloud sandwich?
Yes, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're the meat or the cheese of a cloud sandwich.
The cheese of a cloud sandwich. So as we get out of the cheese, another really big feature that was important for me was, terrain shadowing and terrain occlusion from the cloud. So,
Sredna, have a good day. This is actual graphics. They're playing the game right now.
Cast onto the terrain, and it just adds that depth. It just adds that believability to what we're seeing in the frame. And when you see like these dark overcast clouds and they're hovering above the mountains, it finally completes the frame. Especially when you see these distant rumbles of thunder in the distance.
So James Cameron, who's doing the run through, yes, that is his name.
Good old James Cameron.
To the Outpost. The goal for us is
directing some of the biggest movies in history and doing a CIG playthrough. Thank you, James.
To basically make 50 of these, whether they're inhabited or derelicts or even basically inhabited by a farmer or inhabited by a gang.
This is from two Citizen Cons ago.
The goal is to have these act as different factions, and so that you can develop different rep associated with them, and you can start seeing how big these outposts stretch to with the comms tower that's behind us, and then even some of the AA turrets that you'll actually see up close and personal.
I love this landing. The sound is great. The weight is great.
That was a really good approach from James there.
Why don't my landings feel like that? I need that kind of sound design, or that makes such a big difference.
That was a really good approach from James there. Good landing. That was a good solid 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Jeez.
5 out of 7.
Upgrader.
Yeah, I'd go 6 at least.
No one's ever got a 6.
Gotta watch me land, man.
Time flies.
So here we'll go down to the technical deck. Show up the cargo area.
Somebody had asked earlier if we're going to see these outposts build and grow. I don't think so. I think they're just going to be placed there. I'm not sure if there's going to be much of a dynamic growth of locations in this game.
As well as the climate-controlled component areas, and then onto the gravity generator.
I think landing gear is pretty much indestructible right now, compared to the rest of the ship, relatively speaking. He just said 30 seconds about the growth, though. Oh, I thought he was just talking about how it is already spread out. I don't know if he was saying it grows on its own. Super Mac Bro! Super Mac Bro, thank you for the raid, dude. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? We're going over some historical gameplay. We're actually doing a full walkthrough of the history of the outposts in Star Citizen, the Colonialism outposts they've been working on. So if you're interested in some development news, stick around. Still giving away a 400i. That is actually the ship in this very video. We're giving away this ship right now. Exclamation point 400i. We'll bring that up on Twitch. Exclamation point giveaway on YouTube. But thanks for dropping in. What good is all this if we have to play on 3 frame per second servers? Well, hopefully by the time we get this, they will be a bit better.
His name. He will be taking us down to the outpost. The goal for us is to basically make 50 of these, whether they're inhabited or derelicts or even basically inhabited by a farmer or inhabited by a gang. So the goal is to have these act as different factions, and so that you can develop different rep associated with them, and you can start seeing how big these outposts stretch to with the comms tower that's behind us, and then even some of the AA turrets that you'll actually see up close and personal.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying necessarily that the outpost itself is going to grow over time. I think he's just saying like these outposts have a good amount of size to them. Raytheon, what's up? Pilk, How you doing?
That was
I
a
always
really
want
good
to say pilk
approach,
suck.
From James there, good landing. That was a good solid 3 out of 10.
All right, let's jump back to where we were.
Onto the show climate-controlled area, as well as show off the cargo area, as well as the climate-controlled component areas, and then onto the gravity generator room.
I've been
and the
called
stairway
worse.
out.
Well, I remember your name, luckily. Pilks. Bought the 400i, but it didn't impress you. You went with the Star Runner. I do like the Star Runner more than the 400i. Could use less doors, though. Or faster doors.
So you'll be able to learn more about the ship in one of the later panels that we have with Ben, Paul, and John. I think the team did a great job on this.
So try to remember back to some of these earlier shots that we saw. I mean, this is literally the same planet we're looking at right now. Here, you can tell from the yellow foliage. So remember how these looked when they were first being introduced, when they were just 3D sketches, or even just these 2D sketches that we were seeing. Like, this is how it has progressed over time, from those to the white box, to some of these concepts, to the props. And like I said, one of these times in here,
individual probes so that they don't.
I think they show, yeah, right here. This is the same exact shot we're going to see.
As working out how all the various modules will connect and function with one another.
So remember how basic it looks here.
I think this is one of my favorite skins. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a new skin, just something that felt a lot more, suitable for Pyro. But you can see how it feels suitably worn and weathered, to fit into these climates. And what we're seeing here is first boots on the ground.
We did announce the winner of the Mirai Fury. We gave that away, I think it was a week and a half ago or so. A couple weeks ago. Yeah.
On Pyro. I think it looks great, especially in contrast to what we're seeing here is like actual AI on the terrain, walking about, going about their business. And is that an AA turret there?
It is.
Yeah, so those are the turrets that will hopefully stop those A2s.
All these other elements that we want to make sure that are interactive for the player and allows them to go and explore or use to their advantage. We want them to be able to interact with these different items.
Here you can see various Outpost modules. To the right there, we've got the garage unit. You can see the infrastructure on the roof. But this large, beautiful, archway here kind of signifies, the main entrance, the primary entrance to the main social module. I think the air looks
Who knows?
Great. Fits in with the art style beautifully.
Maybe the turrets will fire far enough. Maybe they'll...
The team did a great job on this.
Rebalance them so they can target ships pretty far out.
And then we've seen the concept art previously in the day, and then...
So here it is. This is sort of the... this is that same spot from... What video was it? Yeah, this one. Get a good idea of how much detail they added onto it for the actual in-game version. Lowered that wall a little bit too. That's nice. Less privacy. We love that. Lakochi, you like the podcast every Monday? We try to get it out every Monday for you. If you haven't already, check out the other one, Citizen Central, just in case there's not enough launch sequence for you. Citizen Central is our 4-guest podcast. I'll be hosting one probably this Saturday on stream. But the Citizen Central is a little bit more about getting multiple people together for like a little round table discussion. Oh, you have that also. Nice. I see you. Thanks for listening. Even the devs are trying to dial down their accuracy now as they can pistol shot you from a mile away. Yeah. Yeah, when the AI actually is running well, it is terrifying.
See it translated in-game, and I think it absolutely looks fantastic. The radial forms, is quite special to this art style, and you can see how that complements these archways that lead into other areas of the outpost.
So with the AI, we
Loot
want to make
box.
sure that it's living, it's breathing,
Just a white
if you
loot
look
box,
back
though.
a little
Ew.
bit, there was a chef actually cooking. There's security guards here to make sure that they're actually protecting their investments, protecting their home from strangers. And then, but you have good rep with them, and so they allow you to kind of enter into certain areas that the other players wouldn't be able to enter into.
We also got a quick shot at the loadout that James is playing. So it's a female loadout, but it's also showing the backpack, which is new. Also, some of the new hair as well, which is rendering much nicer.
So here, the player will make their way out to the trading post, go see the dealer, acquire the artifacts.
And for the trading post, we wanted to get all of the junk on the outside as well, so the player can see it as they're approaching. We wanted, as many tops as we could, and you can see it's using the new soft deck shader. So these are reacting to the planetary wind, the same force that the tall grass and the moss on the ground is reacting to as well.
God, it's so choppy. It hurts my eyes.
Like Ian spoke about before, the inventory and what they'll be able to actually sell here will vary depending on.
Scotty, we're taking some looks at the outpost systems they've been building.
System. Are they close to a jump point where they might be coming down and using this as a chop shop, or are they in a very rural area that's, they care more about the frontier lifestyle and being able to survive versus money?
Yeah, it's the Star Citizen.
The kitchen as well on the way back there. That's the local diner for this outpost. Tough crowd. Also, so in the inside.
What's the point of having an airlock on an oxygen-rich planet? I think it's more so that they just have one on each one, so that they're not. God, what's the word? Making like a bunch of different variants, but they could remove it. Maybe they just really care about their air quality inside. They're super hardcore about clean air.
As well, we wanted this, kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. Like it's just literally the dealers displaying all the wares, everything they'll have outside in the open here.
Well, welcome. Take a look. I'm sure I have what you want, and if not, I'll have something just as good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very good choice. Very good.
So after 5 million credits of disposable income, we get our first look at the Hadesian artifact, which is obviously going to be what is sort of a super rare thing that you'll hopefully be able to start finding in the galaxy, which is sort of, if you're familiar with the lore of Hades, was an old civilization that destroyed itself. So somehow this trader has gotten their hands on this artifact.
The whole thing too.
So here we're showing one way of actually playing through this area. It really depends on your standings within the gang and how they want to deal with you. And then what's the dealer going to do? What's the dealer going to charge you? And from there.
Okay, so I'm actually going to skip the second scenario because we don't need to see that. The main, here's those missile systems if you wanted to see that. Hey, Jace. All right, come on, video. Work with me.
So as we slightly hinted to in the first walkthrough, this is where the AA turrets will come alive, and basically, if you're not fast enough, as James isn't, with your countermeasures, then they'll take you down.
Wow, there's a lot of turrets down there. Yay!
So what we saw there was the player went in.
All right. Now, this is, I think, a little bit more of an interesting scenario because it does show you more of what these outposts are made of, which is why we're here.
AI and see how they want to approach the problem, and see what other secondary or tertiary routes would be open to them, either via the ladder or maybe a possible door.
We don't know how Inner Thought's going to look when it's finalized.
Good night. That was a great shot. Also, one thing we did as well, as Todd said, you know, we changed the time of day. The wind is slightly stronger, so you'll see the gorgeous yellow grass blowing just a little bit more intense than before. Also, what we're seeing here is like something to imply at the frontier living. You know, maybe they're growing crops or vegetables out here, but it also gives a kind of like a soft cover approach to the perimeter of the base. Nice.
Also, with it being a different time of day, this allows us to show off the AI having their 24-hour schedules so that they can be in different areas when you approach it. So if you approach it at night or you approach it during the morning, you know, they'll be doing different things, whatever is valid for their schedule.
And Twill, thank you so much for that tier 1 sub. Appreciate the support. 5 away from a giveaway today,
Doors
folks.
locked, so there's no going through that way. But what James does actually see here as he's scouting out the next AI is, you know, just checking the roofline. But as I said previously, we wanted as many kind of like
that guy looks right at you
to the base as possible. You know, just so the player can continue to keep context of.
By the way, folks, I keep forgetting to mention on Twitch, whenever somebody subs, you see the S raffle pop up. You can type an exclamation point join, and that will get you into a raffle that can get you some points. Those points are generally things we use for giveaways and other things on Twitch. So if you see that S raffle pop up, that's not just for subscribers, it's for everybody on the channel. Happens whenever there's a sub. Get in on that. Less people that join, the more likely you are to win.
Of what's inside.
But also when you're inside, it allows the player to have context of where they're at within the actual outpost.
Jace, my corkscrews are... They're getting there. I need to get back in with Jonathan.
The AI fell beautifully on the already called out beautiful yellow grass and moss.
Awesome. Good to have you here.
So as James is looking back, what he's doing is actually making a mental map of, you know, possible routes, possible advanced traversal routes on top of the outpost.
Recognize that room from earlier videos.
And we saw the dealer there in the bedroom, just end of the day.
So with each outpost, there'll be different routes that will be open to the player or closed to the player. So some of them might have ladders on the outside, some of them might not. Some of them might have basically ways to get in through the floorboards, other ones won't. But this is just one version of, you know, many possibilities. So here, the player will take a secondary route of navigation all the way up to the roof, and then from here, this allows them to be able to check out any of the AI, also be able to look at any of the interactables. In the future, you know, if you got a good reputation, maybe you need to go and fix,
this is SitCon 2021
items on the roof, or if you are there for nefarious means, then maybe you want to take out the power, and which will then kill the AA turrets, or will turn off the lights in the outpost. So it allows the player to interact with different items, and then basically. So
there's those. You can notice all these solar panels, wiring, lights. This is all that resource management stuff they were highlighting before. That will probably interact with these outposts. And he gets up here next to it,
for them to play in.
And you can see it's got that little power box right here. So there's some obvious access points and interactive points that might, you know, work into more missions than just go here and shoot people or trade things, but actually repair this thing or get this town back online or reestablish communications kind of stuff. Could be those little tiny extra missions that you get from a bartender or something that they're not that important, but they give you something to do at these locations.
So here you can see one of those interactables as well as the AI.
The reason this Coda looks different is because it has a sight and a silencer on it, so it looks a little bit more bulky, I think.
And just behind these interactables, like we're seeing these kind of archways. Like right now, these are just kind of empty, and to just illustrate like a guard point. In the future, you know, these could be maybe customizable, or you know, they could contain like an AA turret, like we saw.
Man, that guy's
on
deaf.
Demo 1, or it could contain like cargo storage. Basically, we tried to design something that was as flexible as possible.
So here we're showing off the looting system as well as the inventory system. So this will be shipping in 315.
A heads up to anybody who joined recently. When they were showing this demo, we didn't have an inventory. This was not a thing when we first saw this demo. I mean, you can even see how much like more basic this interface is than what we have right now. There was no move all, there was no double click, there was no immediate action. The thing was laggy, and we hadn't even gotten it at this point.
As well as the inventory system. So this will be shipping in 315. This allows bodies to be able to be interacted with and take off the items associated with it. Also, with this change, you will no longer have global inventory, so you can't be pulling off weapons that you didn't take with you to this location. Everything will be regarding what you carry is what you have. And
Casual gamer Nassim, a
really
space games player,
about how they want to approach the problem, and then also encourages them to look around and see if the designers and have placed different things that they can interact with or
the sun hasn't moved
to help get past a certain
but these locations, like the detail and stuff, and just overall, you don't even notice that this was that same super undetailed location we were just looking at. They did a really good job, I think, with like the texture and the outside and just making it look worn, but still, I don't know, substantial.
Use to help get past a certain route or a certain way that they maybe didn't bring with them.
And we'll also be including the, I believe in 315, the Knickknacks app for your Mobiglass. So now that you aren't carrying everything on your body and it's not sort of universal inventory, you'll be able to consult this app to see kind of
Nobody
where stuff
uses
is being
Knickknacks.
stored and keep it better organized and stuff like that.
So here, this allows the player to have a quick little puzzle, but just gives them a little bit more interaction, and then allows them to go on to what I would consider a tertiary route, versus climbing up the ladder and possibly having to deal with the AI or them being spotted by them.
Are you serious, man? Look at this dude. I mean, I know it's an AI. Just imagine though standing there and there's like a guy right here. Like, I'm none the wiser. That's why you die. Oof. Maybe just get knocked out.
Also, I think the team did a great job on the planet as well as the Outpost. These are really fun to play.
That guy's also
sneak
blind.
around in, and you know, allows for many possible, you know, ways of attacking the same problem.
Oh, you use knickknacks. That's cool.
What we're seeing here is like James is actually getting up onto through one of these like rooftop storage modules, and it's given like the highest.
It's another little interaction point there, possibly. Can't tell if it can be opened or not, though.
Storage modules, and it's given like the highest point in the base. So from here, you can actually, you know, make probably the most informed decisions on, you know, how to approach the next problem. You know, we're seeing this guard routine here, and then ultimately, you know, throwing an item to distract the guard.
allows them to go and access new areas. It's a behavior that we're still working out, but at least we're seeing like the first iterations and be able to continue to optimize it as well as make sure that the behavior is working properly.
So we just saw that for the first time. It's like the first rooftop airlock hatch. So previously, routes in and out, if the outside wasn't pressurized, like we wouldn't have this option. But now through that rooftop airlock, you can cycle and then infiltrate through the roof. And also what we're seeing here is potentially scouting out an advanced traversal up into the rafters, getting on top of some infrastructure and getting like this overview as we go into the garage module.
So here, this is placeholder, but it gives you an idea of, we want to have different interactables, different loot boxes laid out around the location. So if the players explore, they'll be rewarded. We want to encourage them looking in every nook and cranny and enjoying,
Okay, so we're seeing a lot of the internal area here. Something that they've done with these locations more than the other ones in the game is like built these sort of different ways to get around, which I appreciate. I think this is something that they've really focused on. We've seen a lot in like their demos at CitizenCon and Squadron 42, and hopefully when we get these outposts, we finally will get to play them ourselves.
The Outpost has for them.
And one of the things that's interesting is these garages won't be vehicle spawn points, so it's not like a big kind of like pad in the middle, but it's more like, if you want to have your vehicle there, you got to drive it in and park it. So here you can see a variety of vehicles just laid out how the player would have just parked them. Just gives a much more believable and realistic design.
This environment looks so good. Little moving parts like that. Just little bits and pieces all placed around. I like it.
So again, we're just encouraging different navigation, different routes for the player to go and see. Over to the left, back there was a possible way of going into the floorboards or going underneath the outpost. Again, those
It's always 2 years, Entwell.
opened up or closed off based off of just how we want to
Bro,
build
what? That dude literally just yelled.
up or closed off based off of
He's like, ah! And this guy's like, did I fart?
just how we want to build the outpost. Not every one will be built the same. Our philosophy for these are to
get his boots,
to make sure that each one of them feels unique.
Take his boots.
And this is just one way of us customizing it and making each one feel different. And so the player won't always be used to the same route. So here, again, we're using the inventory system. We allow the players to go in.
They actually are spending a lot of time on cities.
If you take out a certain AI,
they just recently we did one of the cities.
Different tools or different notes or different items that you'll need in order to solve your mission.
Interestingly, when we was designing these spaces, we knew we wanted these internal airlocks, but we knew we needed some sort of like view, like porthole on them, just so before you commit through,
this person's
before you
brutal.
cycle, you can just double check to see if there's any bad guys on the other side.
No blood splatter when
some
shot in the head.
bugs,
No blood splatter in the future.
on without any sort of
Okay, we talked about this last week. Here's the cutting technology again that we can use in game right now, but there's not really many opportunities to do so.
issues or bugs.
So here, like previously the players being, on the roof, they've come down through the main section of the outpost. But here, what the player's doing is they're going to the underfloor section. So these aren't vents, but they're more like subfloors. So they're meant to feel very dark, very minimal, but you're actually seeing the foundations of these outposts. So inside here, it's the player will need to kind of work out how to navigate through them. It's very much like a torch-based experience, you know. And then within here, what the player can actually do is work out roughly where they are in relation to the to what's upstairs. And what you're seeing here, like this light bleeding down through, you know, you can kind of make informed decisions, or okay, that's where that AI was, or right now the player is just underneath that main social space. So if you think back, like that was that guard in the beginning, just next to the kitchen counter. But you know, we've intentionally made these spaces not necessarily like very easy to navigate, because you know there wouldn't be a lot of light down here. You know, the player would have to, you know, follow, for example, like James is following the blue wire here, you know, making a decision to like, hey, if I follow that blue wire, I'm probably going to get to something interesting, or
probably the blue wire place,
you know, exit this subfloor space and get back up above.
And what I like about them is basically.
Oh God, I thought these were bodies hanging here, man. Woo, this game can do that. It gets dark.
What I like about them is basically just the claustrophobic feel of it. And then obviously the addition of possible secondary or more advanced navigation. So either going into prone or just going full crouch.
So here we come out in the bathroom space. It's on the other side of the garage.
At the freaking sink? Just shooting these people in the head.
So we're on the opposite side of the outpost from where we just were.
Also, that's that vampire technology. He didn't see us in the mirror.
It's a good ragdoll.
He's got 7 more shots.
Now the body drag. In the shower.
So here, this is just a different wrapper on a loot box. In this case, it's a hamper.
He just shaved. He was feeling good. He's like, yeah, man. I haven't been off planet in 10 years. I got this date out in Stanton. Got shaved. Spaceship's coming to pick me up. Feeling good. And then this lady just comes and shoots him in the back of the head.
The player will be able to really change outfits and adjust the way that they look so that they can walk around the outpost and not be noticed. There will be kind of a certain time limit associated with it. We still need to work out the details on how all that will work, but the goal is to give them a little bit of leeway, and so if you look the part, maybe you're not scrutinized as much, and the AI won't notice you as quickly.
Yeah, we totally recognize you. You're good. Go ahead.
So here we can see back into the social space, but this time on the other side. And then this door will lead directly into the habitation room.
You gonna shoot this guy?
On the outside.
Oh my gosh. Freaking murderer.
Speaking of fun ragdoll physics.
That was a great one.
So here, the player decided to take the dealer out instead of actually figuring out how they could open up the safe. So they're going to have to look around the room. They're going to have to interact with the body and possibly see, you know, is there a way for them to actually open it? In other cases, maybe the safe will be hackable in the future, and in some cases it won't be, and then you'll need to figure out a different way of actually opening it.
So here we spot a little clue, a little note, and you'll notice the what's fun is like the name on here. If you look back and see the some of the AI we've been taken out, You may notice some names.
Yeah,
but
you
here's
killed
the
that
clue
guy.
to the player.
Basically, he's like, yeah, you killed the guy who wrote that note. You're an asshole.
But one of the coolest things for me here is the player is holding an item with the clue, and while holding the item, they can seamlessly interact with another item to solve a puzzle. That's awesome.
And then here we got a little bug.
What are the plans?
I was able to acquire the artifact, and then we'll be able to do whatever they want with it, either sell it or be able to use it somehow in a future mission.
One of the things that was really exciting about watching this kind of back to back is finally getting to see that freedom of choice. And it's like, it's really, really, I mean, again.
All right, so that's about it. I think here they talk a little bit about the base building aspects of the system. We have a couple more updates actually. So this was not the last update we got. This was just in 2021. We have a few more updates throughout 2022 and then going into 2023. So we'll keep going on that. Let me just see what they are talking about here though.
Our direction can also change at this stage. So we use this phase to kind of explore creatively as well, and concept art is a fantastic jumping off point for sparking ideas.
One of the first steps when starting a new location is to start look development, a hyper-focused small section of the location where we can hone in the tools and methods needed to execute the concept in-game. Some things translate well, some things don't. It's important to figure all this out before going full steam ahead with the entire team. One of the great assets on the Sandbox team is we have a lot of people who are passionate about concept and design, which means when translating from concept to production environment, it's very easy to expand on the concept art. With the art styles of the Colonial Outpost, we decided to change up the way we typically author content. Our hard surface.
Sorry.
Key improvements. This starts at the macro level.
It's very
where
zoomed
on the
in.
Planet's outpost are placed, how the local conditions affect your time there, then what kind of buildings an outpost has and how they're laid out, all the way down to the ability to independently swap out an underfloor layout in a single building of that outpost. We'll have various types of modules, from large standalone modules like warehouses or ore extractors, which have a singular function, all the way down to smaller room modules that can be connected together in different ways to form a complete headquarters building. After pre-production was finished, we had a list of the room module types that we wanted to tackle first. For the headquarters building, everything hinges around a hub module with different room modules that can be attached to extend the structure. The room modules will serve different functions in the base, with various gameplay systems linking one to another for an interconnected web of sandbox gameplay opportunities. As content creators for the Outpost, we needed a new system to build, edit, and manage the library of modules we're creating. Rastar is the tool we'll use to do this. It allows us to intuitively create a location template directly on the surface of the planet. Not only this, but headquarter buildings can be snapped together directly within the tool, or with an intuitive user interface. One of the other major innovations with the Planet Tech has been the ability to modify the terrain mesh and flatten areas of terrain.
This is what I was talking about earlier, that they couldn't do this before.
We were at the mercy of the terrain when it came to designing our buildings, which is why our outposts had to be built with stilts and placed in naturally flat areas of the planet. Now, we can build much more natural buildings with walls and entrances connected directly to the planet's surface. And also, we can place these buildings in a much wider range of locations. We believe our new outposts inject a refreshing new location experience into Star Citizen. They're organic, warm, personal spaces that really convey the age and history of humanity's expansion into the verse. The new art style, the focus from design on gameplay.
Why do they keep zooming in so much on this, man?
To their construction will allow us as developers and you as players be part of creating a wider variety of rich and satisfying experiences for every outpost the player comes across.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Joel. That was awesome. And moving on, we're actually going to talk to
So
Cora.
that's all they had to say about Outposts there. As you can see, they made a lot of progress from 2020 till then, over the course of about a year and a half. But they weren't done. That was kind of, obviously they prettied that up. They got it ready for the demo. It wasn't ready to go into the full game at that point. So we got to start seeing some more mentions of the work that they were doing to build it up. So here is our first update in 2022 that we saw on these outposts.
Make your homes in another system. Finally, let's take another look at the continuing development of Colonialism outposts, including these new liquid storage tanks, some new light fixtures,
wells,
Wells.
and new garden modules. You know it's the future because of hexagons.
Love hexagons.
Then, from one outpost type to another look at white box explorations of derelict outposts.
So the derelict outposts are actually a fun story. Those we got introduced in January of 2022, and they were put into the game, I think, by May of 2022, something like that. So they kind of they proved out that the sandbox team can build these locations quickly. It's just the colonialism outposts are definitely on the back burner waiting for Pyro to come in. But there are a lot of different archetypes, wells and farming and fuel, and we'll see here, I think, something on mining soon. I don't know if I actually have that video clip up. I told you guys that I would find that one. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Hold on. Said probably be under Outpost. Because I showed you, where was it? I believe I showed you some of the art assets. Yeah, this right here.
Refinery.
So this is a refinery station, which this is just kind of the concept art for, but we have seen it in game. So here's one shot of it from a recent ISC, and they just kind of sneak it in here in the background, but you can see it's at its final art. It's got its lighting. This stuff is like, I don't know, to some level ready to go into the game. We've also got to look at some of the farming outpost types here. Here is another look at a refinery. You've got these cooling towers, and you can tell this is pretty obviously the same sort of thing as this. So all this stuff they've got like modeled out and they've been kind of teasing us with, but they haven't really dove into what it is yet. And here's a gray box version of that same thing. You can see the mining over here. The yellow highlights all the interactable points. And this is from last year. Now, throughout last year, we got that video update in March, but besides that, we didn't get too many other video updates for the colonialism style. They kind of went a little quiet with it last year, I think, because they realized they were going to be further away than they thought. But they have a little bit of a mention here where they talk about work continued towards the final on the colonialism outpost, with more variants and modules being completed. In conjunction with the new Rastar tool gaining a wider feature set, the team began... These birds, man. The team began dedicating playtesting in the lead up to a wider distribution across the systems they'll first be seen in. Obviously not including Stanton. And this is just another version of one of those things. Got receipts for everything. I collect those receipts, man. And then we got another month. So that was March monthly report of last year. This is the April monthly report of last year, where they say, elsewhere, the second round of content for the initial release of the new colonialism outposts is nearing final. The outposts will soon start to be distributed across the Pyro system in readiness for their debut. So they've already kind of started internally pushing these outposts out and making sure that they work with all the stuff they have planned. And you can see a picture, another picture here of it. They're looking good. I like how diverse all of the different pictures we see of these outposts are. They don't look exactly the same, which is cool. That unmistakable Jared voice. Looking forward to my coverage on CitizenCon. It'll be a bit late. I'm actually going to be at CitizenCon, so my videos will be coming out a little bit later. Although maybe I'll try and do a live stream while I'm there. That'd be fun. Live stream of the actual show. Pyro is never coming. It's a myth. They're just going to skip Pyro and move on to Nyx. Pyro is just fake news. All coming in 4.0 in January 2024. Stanko, best of luck on that one. I don't think we're gonna see it. Maybe within the next year. I don't know. Why move on to Nyx though? Why not do Pyro?
Now, one of last year's big showcases were the Colonialism Outposts, and in the time since then, they've grown and expanded several times in scope. And while we're not gonna spoil all of that here just yet,
So these, I think they call the outlaw style of the same outposts we just saw. So they will have outlaw style, they'll have corporate style, they'll have random civilian styles. It's just another feature set on top of them.
we can show you is what we call overlay work.
Overlay, yeah.
Overlays are essentially a collection of props and dressings that can be added to an object container of an existing location. In this case, several of the Colonialism Homestead modules, to give them a look and feel of something very different than their original intention. With overlays, this facility that clearly started life as a domicile for the traditional homesteader has now demonstrably been overtaken by a rather messy outlaw element. Which isn't to say that all outlaws are messy. We already had that debate last year. But you can see here the power of proper dressing in action all the same, and its ability to transform a location from cozy homestead to outlaw ruggedness.
Ah, love
and you
that.
can see here
Outlaw
a recent
ruggedness.
in-game test of the new outlaw overlay in action on a potential homestead for perennial.
So it does look, let's see if we can go back real quick and look at what the regular outpost looks like. Think this should give us a decent look at it.
Open to the player or closed to the player.
So like it is a
some of them
lot
might have
cleaner.
planners on the outside.
They still got like the cloth hanging around and stuff, but this looks just straight dirty. Like they were not trying to keep this place tidy, which, you know, outlaws be like that. Gonna be fun to wait for patch 34.320 with your grandkids. Hey, are your grandkids friends with the other person who had grandkids in chat earlier? We should all write stories about our grandkids and how much fun they're gonna have with Star Citizen.
Test bed, Daymar. Now, tests like this are done to accomplish a few things. First and foremost, to validate what works and what still needs adjusting when these modular overlays are assembled in the variety of ways that will ultimately make up dozens and dozens of different layouts throughout the verse. It can also serve as identification of feature and UI needs for Rastar, the internal tool that designers are using to populate the entire Pyro system ahead of Alpha 4.0.
Huh. This person's not as bloodthirsty as whoever was playing that demo.
That the new overlay hasn't broken any of the existing quest work in place. That AI doesn't get stuck on a random box that wasn't there in the base module, and much, much more. And as work progresses, the Outlaw overlay will continue to be developed into smaller subsets, some generalized for use anywhere in the verse, and others specifically tailored to some of the many gangs found throughout the Pyro system. And before we wrap up, let's skip ahead and show you a few more areas without spoiling some of the quest context here.
This video is actually from 2022. This is from about a year ago.
I'll just say, some of this stuff is dark.
Ew. See, this is where I thought we were before when I saw those bodies hanging.
And just so you don't think they've only been working on the same stuff from last year, here's a sneak peek at early white box of a repair and service station you may encounter on your travels in Stanton.
This is cool. This gives me very Star Wars vibes of just like a single landing pad surrounded by a circular wall in the middle of the desert where you can land, get some repairs, maybe do some quick work, and then get out of there. I love that.
Pyro and beyond. Work is also underway creating various refineries and other producers that will make use of the upcoming resource management system to provide new opportunities for players to build their credit empire, or should they choose, hinder the advancement of someone else's. And
I'm excited for that stuff. That's good stuff. You think that instead of releasing another system, instead they won't release one and just start working on another? Well, can confirm they have already started working on the next system. This is a look at Nyx. I think they probably are moving slowly on it since Pyro is such a focus, but they've already started working on the planets of Nyx. They've started developing the flora of Nyx. Different assets for rocks and other things. And of course, just like the other Planetary stuff, we saw the height maps on Nyx. So even if they were giving up on Pyro, I don't think they'd have to restart on another system since they've already started working on one. But if they gave up on Pyro, at least we'd get the gameplay stuff they developed. Really wish they'd show non-hostile settlements. It's like everything we are getting is just Ninetail spawner for a kill 10 mission. Did you see the early mission we did? This one, they kind of show off what it's like to be around a non-hostile
Signifies
place.
You know, the main entrance, the primary entrance to the main social. No.
Just kind of like a more
previously in the day, and then
a more social approach to go into an outpost. But yeah, I do hope that we get more non-hostile ones in game soon.
The radial forms, you know, is quite special to this art style, and you can see how that complex.
Oh yeah, Odin's also being worked on for Squadron 42. That's a good point. Really hope we start getting huge content dumps once server meshing is in. I think we'll start to see a lot more significant development, because we've already noticed that with PES from these teams, that their development styles and the things they focused on changed once PES started to be more usable for them. Why would they give up on Pyro? Oh, I don't think they will. He was just saying that Pyro is fake. And I was saying if it is fake, they would just move on to the next system, but I mean, still not worth to play since the new patch will wipe everything. Yeah, if you're worried about wipes, I wouldn't play this game until it hits at least a beta, if not just a release, because they'll be wiping stuff pretty regularly here. Yeah, and they do depend on working AI, which, you know, we don't have super well right now. Okay, so here is another update on these outposts. This was one, we're getting into like really recent time now. This is December of 2022. We got to see all of this sort of work going on and get a good idea of where they're going, but now the lighting team is starting to focus more on the outpost, which is generally good news for these assets. Lighting comes pretty late when they finally got the designs and everything in place and set to go. So what they have to say here is they continued to improve all lighting aspects on the Colonialism outposts. This involves a lot of interior and exterior work to ensure that they fit the environment and create the intended cold or cozy feeling within the buildings. Looks pretty cozy. Honestly, I'm down. I like it. Roll up a little bed here. Put a little laptop. Watch some Space Tomato next to the fire. Nice. AI works really well when you're on a new server. It makes me think the AI in Squadron should be nearly done. We hope so. All right, another update we got, this time in 2023. So we're getting real close to present day. And the lighting team, literally the only thing they worked on was the Loreville skyline rework, which they finished. So then they moved on to Colonial Outposts. This is a significant undertaking with many pieces that we need to get right, is all they said. So clearly it's lighting that is full on with these outposts now. There's nobody else really working on them in the monthly reports. Moving on to the next one, we've got March of 2023 monthly report here. So this is something that came out to us in April. And they said that the lighting team was working on Invictus Launch Week and Ruin Station. They also progressed with their work on the Colonial Outpost modules in development by the Sandbox 1 team. Can actually pull that up real quick so you guys see who that is. So Sandbox teams are... The Sandbox teams, I don't think they do city work. I think they're mainly focused on these kinds of outposts and stuff. Let's see. Okay, they are doing building interiors, actually. And underground facilities. I actually don't see Colonialism Outposts on here, though. It might be a different Sandbox team. EU Sandbox? Asteroid facilities, which we still don't really hear about. These are going to be interesting. I think a bit of a surprise when they come in. Here we go. Outpost, Homestead, Independent, and Outlaw. This is a Sandbox team working on a small home for AI to live in and shelter. They consist of a central hub and a few optional internal and external modules. They provide the basic necessities to support a small group of people for an indefinite amount of time. So art and designs working on these, and they look like they are scheduled to finish up towards the end of this quarter. Or I guess quarter 3, but who knows. And then Outpost theme variants, those got a lot of work before too. So yeah, that's who's working on it right now. 141 weeks. Honestly, it's probably much more than that. This is just what they have written down, which goes back to Q1 of 2021. And as we saw with these first updates, this is August of 2020. So we already know, like, this is 2020. So they were clearly already working on them. That's why the progress tracker isn't always the most accurate. Interiors and underground facilities are very exciting. Yeah, lighting and audio are pretty late in the process. It's fun. It's fun to watch all this stuff happen over time. It's frustrating, it's annoying, it's confusing, but it's also, it's kind of fun. Yeah, nothing is consecutive. So just because it says 141 weeks, it doesn't mean they were working on it 141 straight. Maybe they took a month break in here somewhere, a couple weeks break. You never really know. They will have to do ArcCorp, yeah. All of the buildings on all of the cities will be updated for building interiors. I think ArcCorp would be the only other one that has the real problem with the building interiors, but they might have to do all of them. All right. And here is one last update. This is the most recent update we've gotten on anything related to these outposts. This, again, is almost entirely focused on Stanton. So these aren't necessarily the Colonialism outposts, but they will give you an idea of what they are thinking for outposts in general and how they want to have them function in game. CIG has how many employees? Around 900, I think. Hey, Azariel. Any hopes for this year's CitizenCon? The star map. Since the new bunkers are supposed to be like medium bunkers, what do you think large bunkers will be? I just figured they'd scale them up. Honestly. I don't know exactly how they're going to make them look differently. Lucid! Yo! How you doing, man? Thank you so much for the, renewing that membership on YouTube. That's our first YouTube member today. Yeah, progress tracker gets a little bit confusing, agreed. Whole planet is nothing but buildings, but we won't be able to go in all of them. All right, so our last update, let's see what they have to say about these things. Average size of the team seems like it's anywhere from 5 to 15 people, but
my third favorite settlement
that's really off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that.
Probably be the one beside the lake. It's a small settlement, as if like one person had a small little ship. He was by himself. They landed in the woods, but near enough to a little lake. And he's like, I'm going to make this little, almost like a fishing cabin on this side of the lake and live this super peaceful life. It has a few little cabs that are just like basically for shelter for like shaded areas where they maybe has a little workbench or a little table that they're making like crafting elements. He also built like a little dock so he can like maybe fish there at night. We planted a couple little harvestables as well along the coast of the water. He has his little house to himself. He builds as he wants. Maybe players can come and visit, but it's like a really social kind of small little settlement where I could definitely see myself living if I crashed my ship. That's what I would probably do, just make my one little shack and build a little dock and just look at the sunsets at night kind of thing. The next most visually advanced one, we nicknamed it Cable City. There's a lot of wires, so they connect a lot of the solar panels, the windmills to all their habs. It's
Wait, did Crouch give us a raid on YouTube? Did I miss that? Welcome in, though. Love that guy.
Like overlooking this really cool lake down below. So we thought like it would be a good idea to bring like the humidity aspect into it. So the terrain, we tried to make it a bit more muddier. We had like tracks of vehicles that went by. The terrain is just a lot more worked, a lot more detailed. So it just makes it feel like, yeah, the people are are working there, or there's vehicles going by on a daily basis. They're probably scavenging like a ship that's nearby. We haven't really placed a ship for that one, but like it just story tells really well. Yeah, this a really badass vista with the clouds and the lake and the fog that lifts up in the morning. It's just a really nice one that came together super quick and super well. So I'd say that one is probably the second most fleshed out that I really like. The kit and all our object containers have been growing exponentially, which is making our work a lot faster. We're a bit more efficient, and we can use our Rastar tool to populate these settlements a lot quicker. We're building these kits as we go, so like every new settlement or every new theme that we find that we're missing little elements for like pathways, some visual keys that makes them a little bit more unique. So as we go, we're increasing the size of the kit because we keep adding a couple more per settlement. As these settlements grow, we get to also share with the new settlements that come in, so we're able to do really small settlements, but also go into these really, really large settlements where it's almost like fortresses or small villages. Now we have some that are like fully fortified. We have added gameplay like where we can play King of the Hill. We got other ones with like turrets, defense walls, security gates, but everything's still in derelict kind of shape, a bit more like Mad Max, where it's not abandoned, but like they use ship parts, and these things are...
So this kind of derelict settlement still fits into that initial colonialism style. Let me pull that picture back up real quick. It's going to be somewhere around here. Here we go. So this is kind of... Come on. So if you look down here at the colonialism style, you'll see that derelict archetype is actually fitting in under there. It's one of the pillars. So frontier vibe, pyro. Derelict archetype is the colonialism style in Stanton, along with the utilitarian styles that we get from ArcCorp and Lorville, and the high-tech styles we get from Microtech and Orison.
Are still decaying over time
Crusader.
through the harsh weather conditions on these planets. These settlements that have been like there for like 100 years. Others that maybe the spaceship just crashed and like they just started building a village for the last couple of years. Some people would make something that's a bit more fortified to defend against nature and all the elements. Maybe some people would make like a bar just to invite their friends over, expecting to be rescued soon enough, I guess, or within the next several years. So we have like a bunch of farms, we have greenhouses, we can have like hostile, and we can have also just social settlements now with a lot more assets to play with.
Magvadis, thank you for the sub, by the way. I appreciate you.
My favorite settlement or outpost that we've created so far is the one deep in the forest. We nicknamed it like Ewok Village. Basically, you crash in the forest, so you're using all like what's around you, the elements. So there's a bit of lumber. So we're bringing a bit more organic feel to this settlement.
There's those solar panels again, building in that power stuff. Hopefully that'll tie in.
I could definitely see myself building a nice little town in there that's nice and protected. It has these little half barricaded walls made out of lumber, and it has all these drapes, these fabrics, these tarps that are playing in the wind. We have these old windmills that are in the background with fields of crops that they grew, but also it's a bit of like overgrown vegetation at the same time because it's not like lined up perfectly. It's just like this little savage garden that you can pick some berries.
Savage garden.
Or whatever. You have these big greenhouses during the winter season that you can actually grow stuff. You can also use these as harvestables. The player can go visit the greenhouses and just pick some things and add it to his inventory. And we really customized the art direction for each angle. So when the player approaches the settlement, we really have like either a big ship carcass that you can actually like go through, and then it showcases like the whole settlement to the player's eyes. And on the other side, it just shows like different elements and different little hubs in the areas. So you know, like, okay, this is the farming side of the village. This is the more like the town hall, or like this little bar side. We have like really nice paths that are developed. When there's mud, we put like little metal plates and panels so that the player, like, you can tell like it's clearly a path. And we define the main player paths, so it's a lot easier for the players to navigate, find like the lootables. So it just feels a lot more alive, this one, because we spend a bit more time. And this is basically our benchmark that we're aiming for. So it would be the forest settlement, my favorite. So yeah, that's wraps it up pretty much for the settlements where we're at. They're evolving quite rapidly now with our new systems and our new tools. So we actually reduced the size of the team because we don't need as many artists, just because our kit is actually quite large now. So with just a handful of artists, we can really produce like a lot of settlements within a couple-week period.
Yay!
I'm super excited to be able to show the players and share the awesome art that we've been creating over the last several years.
Tools!
Actually. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. I'll see you in the verse. Have a great one.
I'm okay organized. It's the tech problems that get me. Further into the stream, the more you want to play. These are great. And I do think that we could use more kind of utilitarian outposts and stuff in Stanton, but it's nice to see that going from all the way back here when they're talking about just like getting concepts together to all the way up here where they're getting rid of artists because they now have big enough repositories of this stuff, reading the monthly reports and seeing that like they've got these content packs that are going to include entire drops of these outposts, and being able to see those content packs on display in, like, let's see, in these kinds of shots where they show us, where is it? These kinds of shots where they show us all of the stuff that they're creating. You get the sense that they've gotten a lot more scaled up with this stuff over the last few years. Still taking a while. It's still stuck with Pyro. Don't think they're going to really expand on Stanton outposts besides these derelict outposts we're seeing in derelict ships. But I like what they're doing. I do. And I think we still have some time to go before we get to finally see these in game. But I hope that was a good summary for you guys of the history of this feature. I think I'm going to start doing more and more of these about different features in the game. We'll probably be taking input from the Discord server on what features people might want to see. Generally, there'll be things that are like this that have been developed over a long amount of time. But that is the plan going forward. So thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our stream here today, but I hope you got some new news out of this, got to understand how they're moving forward with Outpost. I think these are going to be good little locations for small missions and mission givers and meetup locations whenever we finally want to start doing that kind of stuff. And yeah, thanks y'all. I'm going to send you all on to Meyer. If you're over here on Twitch, the good man, he's playing some Star Citizen, so we don't really get to catch him too often doing that. I will send you over that way. And over here on YouTube, it looks like we've got nobody playing. So again, we'll just be wrapping things up over there. Thank you everybody for being here. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you got some good information. As always, just aiming to give you the good stuff from way back when to right now. And if you want some more content or you want some more discussion or just information about what's going on, I just released a new podcast episode on the second YouTube channel, Space Tomato 2, actually right here, where I get to talk to YouTube. Okay, love ads. I get to talk to YouTuber Loudguns about kind of what Star Citizen, why it's worth it, and the real reason it will continue to thrive despite Starfield, which has been a pretty popular talking point recently. So if you want to check that out, go to have a listen. I think we hit some good points about what people really like about Star Citizen, what sets it apart, what'll keep it alive. If you don't like that, though, new videos will be coming out later this week. So thanks again, everybody. Y'all have been wonderful. Love you. It's always a good time here on the stream. And yeah. I'll be out for the next few days because we're getting out of town for Eid, but I will be back with you on Friday with more chatting and gameplay. Love y'all. Have a good one.